from that patrol car, and also those gunshots ringing out as those officers were shielding themselves behind that patrol car during this shooting. Once again, HPD confirming 3 officers in that incident you just saw have been shot. We want to go up to Sky I-13. Tammy is above the scene watching it all for us. Tammy, what are you seeing there on the scene right now?
Chauncey, when we first arrived on scene, we did see one of those officers loaded onto an ambulance, and you're looking at that Charger as we were circling it. We did see bullet holes in the vehicle, and I'll zoom out here. We have HPD up here with us as well, looking for a suspect. They've been circling this neighborhood. The crash actually happening on Hutchins, the vehicle up on the curve there, just past McGowan. Again, a very chaotic scene. You can see how many officers here on scene. The neighborhood is shut down, and now we're seeing officers search this neighborhood. Chauncey?
All right, Tammy, thanks for giving us the sky eye view there. Once again, you see this scene, 3 HPD officers shot here near downtown. We just saw that exclusive video of what played out here this afternoon. We're told that this all started as some sort of chase, and then it ended right here. You saw that Charger there crash right on Hutchinson, right there past, right there on Hutchinson right there. And you see in the video, this is live video right here that you're seeing. According to Tammy, they did see one officer being taken away on a stretcher. We know this neighborhood here in 3rd Ward, just right here near downtown, has been blocked off. We're also understanding that HPD choppers are also up in the sky with Sky 13 as they are searching for a suspect. But once again, I want to show you this exclusive video from a home surveillance camera as to what happened here this afternoon. Once again, this is near downtown, right there in the 3rd Ward, off of McGowan. HPD confirming with us that this all started as a chase and then ended with these 3 HPD officers being shot. I want you to take another listen and look at this exclusive surveillance video once again. Just compelling video there as you see those officers right here behind this patrol car shielding themselves in this shootout with the suspect who was in that Charger allegedly. Once again, HPD choppers up here over the scene searching for a suspect. We want to go back out to Tammy. Tammy, when you got there on scene, you said you did see one of those HPD officers being taken away on a stretcher.
Yeah, so the Charger is actually on Hutchins, just past McGowan, and just down over here is where we saw them. A very chaotic scene, actually. There was officers running, and there was a PD helicopter up here searching for a suspect. So a lot was happening at that time, and they did load the officer onto the ambulance. It did look like he was moving around a little bit. I actually couldn't see too close whether it was a female or male officer, but they did load somebody who did look like they were conscious onto an ambulance. And you see here where the chain link fence is, where that Charger is. So this is at the end of a police chase, and I believe that's the video that you're talking about with the shootout there. We did see some bullet holes in that vehicle as well. And then, of course, as always, when we come to these scenes, we try to help the police helicopter as much as we can search for suspects, and all the description we got from them is that they were still looking for a white Mercedes. So I don't know if they got into another vehicle or how that other vehicle was involved, but all we got from the description is they were looking for suspects in a white Mercedes.
And Tammy, it looks like they have this neighborhood blocked off, and I know it's right there at McGowan and Hutchins. Could you give us a lay of the land as to this immediate scene, as to what they have exactly roped off out there? Yeah, that's a better look.
It's actually a pretty large scene here with SkyMap up here near Emancipation Avenue and McGowan, and then the actual streets are Hutchins. And then at the top of the screen there, you can see the freeway there. I'll add some more SkyMap features. That is the Southwest Freeway. So this is going to be on the southwest side of town. like you mentioned, and obviously they have quite a few streets blocked off here because now we see them, going door to door looking for more witnesses and that type of thing. And again, this is a very active search. They are looking for suspects involved in this horrific shooting as well. So basically, obviously avoid the area if you can. I'm trying to turn off some of my features here with Churchill because it is actually pretty large of a police presence. Dozens of officers obviously here working the scene along with the PD helicopter from up above.
And Tammy, I know this area right here near Emancipation in 3rd Ward, and they've built several townhomes there. So this is it's an active scene now, but this is also a lot of people who live here in this area and specifically on this block where this shooting happened. Once again, breaking news here. 3 HPD officers have been shot here off of McCowan and Hutchins just in Houston's 3rd Ward. We do have confirmed HPD choppers are right now up and they are searching for one suspect, we're told, and also looking for a white Mercedes. Explain that to me. I know when we look at the scene, Tammy, we have the police cruisers there and then we have that gray Charger, which makes me think that that's the suspect's car. But you're also saying now that police are saying that they're looking for a white Mercedes, possibly connected to this scene and to this shooting?
Yeah, so the high-speed chase ended here, and this is the vehicle that we saw up over a curb when we first got here. When we were circling it, we found bullet holes in that Charger there, and obviously it does look like that cruiser is shot out as well. And that is on Hutchins and McGowan. And then when we got up here and when they were loading the police officer onto the ambulance, we heard HPD helicopter talking because we communicate with them, and they told us that they were looking for a suspect in a white Mercedes, and it was very active. There was police officers running around. Right now, it just looks like the streets are closed off. It's not as chaotic as when we first arrived on scene and saw that first officer loaded onto an ambulance. But you did mention how busy this area is. And let me tell you, we can't get around quite yet because we have 2 other helicopters up here with us. So we are just on this side, but there is a lot of people standing out there on the road. So I can't imagine, all of these shots being fired and as many people being in this area, just a dangerous situation for everybody. And, our thoughts and prayers just go out to those families of those police officers.
Certainly so. We're all praying that those 3 officers shot here on this scene are going to pull through and they are going to be okay. And Tammy, you talked about how chaotic this scene is, but we want to go back to this exclusive video to give you a first-hand look at just how chaotic it was as this shooting unfolded with HPD officers and this suspect in this shootout here exchanging gunfire. And we very rarely, at least not this soon, get a glimpse as to exactly what happened right after the shooting. Take another look at this exclusive surveillance video. And we're going to continue to just loop this video here because we want to take it, if we can, how this all started. Once again, you see those officers shielded behind that HPD patrol car. You see the other officer here to the screen right there to your right as he's approaching that car. It looks like they run past the Dodge, that Charger, I guess after that suspect who allegedly takes off running down the street as you see those officers taking off down Hutchinson, trying to get this suspect into custody. But you see how it all unfolded there, the gunshots ringing out, the exchange of gunshots and police returning fire there. Once again, here on this scene, after that unfolded, that exclusive video, 3 officers ended up being shot here. Once again, this is in the 3rd Ward, right near downtown. There's the chase. You see the end of the chase right there, that gray Dodge Charger. You see, this is the end of the police chase. We're going to see the door opens up. You see that suspect back there. The other police officers, they pull up. You see, that's when the gunfire starts. That's when that shootout starts. And it looks like that suspect may still be in the car. I haven't seen anyone get out of the car yet. Once again, you are looking at this exclusive surveillance video from a nearby home as this is all unfolding when those 3 HPD officers approach this car after the high-speed chase. You see the car crashing there right on Hutchins, right on this fence, and those officers taking aim. They're taking position, also shielding themselves, and it looks like suddenly maybe the suspect takes a run for it right here to the right along this fence, and you see those officers chase down the road after that suspect. We want to go back up to Sky I-13. Tammy, she got on the scene and she saw one officer being taken into the ambulance on a stretcher. Tammy, what are you seeing now? I see they're continuing to block off this neighborhood there on McGowan. Tammy, you there?
On scene, we saw officers running from this area, McCowan and Hutchins. So that makes sense. We got here shortly after they loaded the officer onto the ambulance, and we saw them running from the Dodge Charger. So everything happened quite fast. You know, obviously it looks like the scene has calmed down quite a bit, but as you're describing everything, it makes sense because we were one of the first ones on scene here along with HPD, and when we showed up again, they were loading the officer from this area onto an ambulance, and again there were guns drawn and they were chasing down Hutchins Street. It looked like they were actively running over or running towards the suspect, and again we were trying to help PD search for this Mercedes that was taking off from this area.
All right, Tammy. So behind the scenes, this is what's happening now as we are waiting for more information from police. We do have a crew headed to the scene. They are close, so we should have a live report from a reporter here at any time soon. Our assignment desk, they're on the phone right now trying to get HPD to give us more information. Of course, we want to know how those 3 officers are doing. We also want to know, is this suspect at large, and if they are actively searching for that suspect or suspects at this time. Maida Moreno joining me here inside the studio. Such a crazy scene out there, Maida.
It really is, Chauncey, and as you were recapping for everybody at home, I was looking at this video. It's just pretty stunning, and it really just shows how dangerous of a job these officers have, and they have to think quick on their feet. They have a suspect that pulls out a gun and starts shooting at them, so they strategically have to figure out how to take down this suspect, and safely too, because yes, this is in the middle of a neighborhood. People are walking their dog.
And Maida, I can't help but to think when these officers roll up to these scenes, they think situational. So they also think about what's happening right now in our community, in our area. The crime numbers are up, the homicides are up, and we've also seen a lot of law enforcement officers be killed here locally. So they have all of that they're also thinking about. But as you said, they have to act quickly. And in that video, you see it's a matter of seconds before that car crashes, and then those officers have to respond, get out of the car, and then you see the gunfire.
And the suspect, very brazen.
Yeah.
Did not think twice to pull out a gun and shoot at these officers.
And we want to go back to that video because it doesn't seem like that suspect in the Charger got out of the driver's side. It looked like the suspect, let's play it again. You see the car crashes there. This is after that high-speed chase. You see HPD on this car's tail. They stop right there. You see the door opens, but the suspect, I never see the suspect get out. You see the doors just open there, and then you see those gunshots. Then those officers taking aim. Those officers also trying to get barriers. Those officers right there running behind the patrol car being shielded. They're still shooting and the shootout is still happening. But then it seems like that suspect may have escaped through the passenger side. And you see all of a sudden right here, they're going to take off down the road, which makes me think, looking at this video, that suspect may have gotten off on the passenger side and look, taken off right there on the road beside that chain link fence. You see those officers going right after him.
Yeah, and again, HPD did tweet out earlier when this incident happened. They said to try to avoid this area. I'm sure it's normal for people to go outside and look around when they hear sirens and when they see a lot of police commotion, but this is a very dangerous situation. Again, this suspect has not been taken down from what we understand, so just stay at home. And that's why we're here breaking into programming to bring you the latest details on the situation. And we're talking about sending a crew out there, obviously safely. We understand our reporter Pooja Lodia just arrived to the scene. Pooja, are you ready to talk to us about what you're seeing there?
Well, we actually just arrived here, but I can tell you that just over the past couple of minutes, we have seen more and more officers. Many of them are gathered over there on that corner. We now see 2 vehicles with gunshot holes. We see this Dodge here to my right. We also see this police patrol unit here with several bullet holes. Again, you can see just how many police officers are out here, and you can see that this area really has been blocked off. We see just groups of officers walking around. We've seen them going up to individual residences, potentially asking people for surveillance video. They are trying now to, of course, work on their investigation. But again, just over the past few minutes, we have seen more officers come out here. Police are telling people to stay away from this scene if at all possible. Guys?
Yeah, Pooja, and we understand we're just getting more developments here. ATF Crime Gun Task Force is arriving to the area to provide some support. Again, from what we understand, this suspect has not been caught, so this is a very tense situation, and it is happening right now at the moment.
And Tammy Rose also talked about the HPD chatter that she was hearing about. They are now looking for a white Mercedes. We did not see that white Mercedes on scene, so we don't know if that car was connected here to the scene or not. But Tammy Rose saying there, of course, we are trying to make calls to see how these officers are doing. Prayer is going up for them. We hope they are going to pull through. They all 3 have been taken to Memorial Hermann Hospital. We want to go out live now to Jessica Willie to see what she's seeing out there. And I can imagine those officers in situations like this, they all flock to the hospital to be with their brothers in blue. Jessica?
Yeah, Chauncey, we are outside Memorial Hermann Hospital, the emergency room where those 3 officers have been taken. Let me show you what it looks like here. Obviously, a whole slew of police cars, Houston police cars. We understand HPD commanders are here, as well as a PIO. Obviously, we are waiting for information from those folks. What happens in these situations is that, as you said, the men and women of the Houston Police Department who are responding to this scene or want to be here for support come to the hospital, and then shortly after, we expect to hear from the police chief. A lot of times the union president will be out here to give us an update on the officer situation. But this is where the police officers are taken here to Memorial Hermann Hospital. It has a trauma center here, and they can handle any of the gunshot wounds that they see. But lots of law enforcement here. We see investigators, people from the district attorney's office will be here. HPD's Special Investigations Unit will be here as well. So we are here just waiting for more information from the folks. There are a lot of streets blocked off. They blocked off streets to get the ambulances here as quickly as possible. One good thing is that scene where it happened is in close proximity to the hospital, so it wasn't a lot of travel time to get here, so the officers got here very quickly, and more people continue to arrive, screeching up with sirens on, wondering how their brothers and sisters in blue, as you said, Chauncey, are doing here at Memorial Hermann Hospital. We're going to continue to monitor the situation, obviously bring you any updates as we get them. Back to you.
All right, Jessica Willie there live from Memorial Hermann giving us the very latest as those 3 officers have been taken there. Now we want to go back. I want to recap this. We're told this all started around 2:40 when a disturbance call with the weapon came in to HPD. Then I want to take you right here to this exclusive home surveillance video as to how this all unfolded. A high-speed chase here ending with this Charger there crashing into this fence. This is on Hutchins and McGowan. You see HPD showing up there, the first HPD vehicle there showing up. You see those 2 officers immediately jumping out. Then you see gunfire there, that other officer having to hide behind this fence, and then those other 2 officers there shielding themselves with the patrol car as allegedly this suspect is shooting back at them. But you see the shootout happening right there, and then suddenly you see the car door opens, and that suspect allegedly is still inside the car, and then all of a sudden, I'm guessing that this suspect may have gotten out of the passenger side door, because look at there, you see those officers officers just take off down the street after that suspect. Now, once again, this happened here in the afternoon. That call coming in at 2:40, a very busy neighborhood right here at McGowan and Hutchins. So people were out there listening to this and watching this. We want to go to one witness who saw all of this go down.
Like I said, a lot of gunshots though, so it sounded like something pretty violent. I thought there were firecrackers, but after I thought for a second, those not firecrackers, those were gunshots. And like I say, at least 30 or more.
We know that police at the moment are looking for a white Mercedes. So we're trying to figure out how these vehicles are all connected or what happened to the suspect. But again, this exclusive video is just stunning to see just how quickly something like this can happen and put so many people in danger in this area, which is 3rd Ward.
And we want to welcome you here to the news at 4 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon, a busy Thursday as this chaotic scene here unfolding. This breaking news right near downtown Sky Eye, live over this scene where 3 officers were shot here after a high-speed chase. You're watching exclusive video of this incident all play out here on this intersection of McGowan and Hutchins. You see the shootout happening there, and then all of a sudden those officers taking off after that suspect, allegedly, who is running down the street. Last check, we know that suspect is still on the loose right now. They are searching for a white Mercedes. We want to go back up live to Pooja Lodia, who was there on the scene. She just got there. And Pooja, I understand, is probably getting more chaotic as people hear more and more about this and officers come to the scene.
That is true. We continue to get pushed back from this scene as more and more police officers arrive. I'm going to move out of the way just so you can really get an idea of what is happening out here. It's important to note that we are right in the middle of a neighborhood. There are a lot of families who live around here, and a lot of people are actually gathered nearby because so many of them heard these gunshots. I mean, everybody we have spoken to remembers hearing more than 30 shots in all. So people actually heard this from inside their homes. They heard it from across the street and came running to see what was going on. Here on scene, we see 2 units that do have bullet holes in them. We see that police cruiser that is right in the middle of the street, that SUV with multiple bullet holes in it. We also see this Dodge over to my right. You can see the warning lights are on right now, but that vehicle also has bullet holes on it. But really, just when you look at this scene as a whole, you can see that police officers are on all sides of this incident. They are trying to find out what's going on, and we've actually even seen them going door to door asking people what they saw, what they heard, and of course trying to get some surveillance video. So we are still waiting for a police update out here, but like you said, things are starting to get more chaotic. We're seeing more and more officers arrive to this scene. Back to you.
Pooja Lodia, thank you so much reporting from this scene. And we also have Jessica Willie at the hospital where these 3 officers were taken. Now, if you're just joining us here on the news at 4 o'clock, Mayra Moreno alongside Chauncey Glover, we have exclusive video of this crazy scene that happened around 2 o'clock. Take a look.
Wow, such a crazy scene there as we show this exclusive video from a nearby home surveillance camera. You see that after the high-speed chase, the car crashing there, those officers getting out with their guns drawn, and that suspect also with the gun, allegedly, and gets out of the car. He doesn't, whoever the suspect is, does not get out of the driver's side of the car. As you see, those officers are returning fire there and shielding themselves. Those other 2 officers are going to try to get closer here to this car, to this Dodger, to the suspect. And then you see the shootout happens there as those officers are shielding themselves, trying to also keep themselves safe, but apprehend the suspect. And then you never see the suspect get out of the driver's side, but you don't see him get out of the passenger side. But all of a sudden you see those officers just take off running, which leads us to believe that that suspect takes off running here down Hutchinson. Now, once again, this call came in at around 2:40 this afternoon. afternoon as a disturbance call with a gun. This is a very populated area, a lot of townhomes here in this area on McGowan and Hutchins, right near downtown in 3rd Ward. People were out there watching this chaos unfold. Listen to what one witness told us.
It's just too much gun violence in Houston. Just a lot of gun violence in Houston, and it's just too much. You know, it's just getting ridiculous nowadays. You know, it's just, yes, a lot of gun violence, just too much going on, you know.
Yeah, a lot of violence and too much going on. We have been talking about our crime numbers here lately. And Maida, we've also been talking about the number of police officers being shot here in our area as well.
And sadly, a lot of officers have died in the line of duty just like this. So we often talk about these stories, we report on crime like this, but rarely do you ever get to see video like this where it really gives you a clear picture of the dangerous situation that they're confronted with, you know, on a daily basis, sadly, here in Houston.
And this is on the heels of 2 other officers here in the past few days also being killed. And one of the suspects who allegedly fled to Mexico, captured yesterday and brought back here to Houston. So we've been seeing this play out a lot here in our area, sadly, but very rarely do we actually see the chaos unfold as we see there in that exclusive cell phone video. You're looking at the scene here right near downtown off of McGowan and Hutchins. HPD confirming 3 of their officers have been shot here on this scene. This is after a high-speed chase. That suspect leading police on the high-speed chase. The call coming in this afternoon around 2:40, a disturbance call with a weapon. And Maida, just looking at that video, it happens in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I know, and it's crazy, and sometimes we say this a little too often. We can sound like a broken record, but it plays out almost like the movies. You know, you see something happening like this where a suspect is leading police on a chase, you know, crashes somewhere, and then all of a sudden these officers have to get out and fend for themselves and also protect the community, which is what they're doing. They're trying to stop a dangerous criminal that is in the streets of Houston, as you can see from this video. Once again, exclusive here to ABC 13. It happens so fast. This suspect, without even a second thought, starts to shoot at officers. And we had video from earlier of the scene where you see dozens of bullet casings just littering the street. And again, this suspect has yet to be caught. So it's a dangerous situation still happening at the moment.
Right. And we know earlier, Tammy Rose up in Sky 13, she talked about HPD talking about they were looking for a white Mercedes. We did not see a white Mercedes here on this scene, but according to Tammy, she says HPD. Now I want to take you here to her new live scene. This is live pictures right now. You see that white Mercedes. HPD, we don't know if these scenes are connected just yet, but this is a new scene right here. You see HPD have this white Mercedes surrounded. Tammy Rose, I know you heard earlier that HPD, they were looking for this white Mercedes. What's going down and where is this exactly?
Well, this is actually a very active scene near Lockwood and Hirsch. We're up here with HPD. You can see that Mercedes with the trunk popped in the middle of your screen. We do have officers with their guns drawn, so we're not going to get too close. I'm going to zoom out here. So again, for all of our viewers just tuning in, a very dangerous situation. I'm going to add sky map up here for you. So again, you can try to stay away from this area near Lyons Avenue and Lockwood. The last word that we heard from HPD, they were looking for a white Mercedes, and then we were told to go over to this location where there was an active shooting or guns fired. And when we arrived on scene, obviously you can see all the police officers with their guns drawn. So they have this street Lockwood shut off again near Lyons. Again, avoid the area if you can. Just very active on this side of town.
Yeah, and Tammy, again, we just want to reiterate it is a separate active scene, but we don't know at the moment if they're connected. So at this point, all we know is that police were looking for this suspect or are continuing to search for this suspect who was apparently in a white Mercedes. But again, a separate situation here. But Tammy, just a crazy situation overall playing out on this Thursday here in Houston.
Yeah, it's so hard to watch all of these, officers in the chaotic scene. We're one of the first responders that, arrive on scene. And when you're seeing everything unfold in front of you and you don't know how it's going to end, you always just hold your breath. Yeah, and again, just another shooting situation now that they have to deal with. You can see a HPD helicopter flying there through us, again, swarming this neighborhood. So you can see where they are turning around vehicles. Again, avoid the area if you can. We've got our sky map up here where you can see the streets. Lockwood is shut off in both directions, and again near Lyons as well, while they try to contain this situation. And again, all that we can see from this vantage point, because we obviously don't want to go in too close to these officers who are actively got their guns drawn near Lyons Avenue. It does look like they're pointed towards where that white Mercedes is with the trunk up. And again, we didn't see anybody else running around, any other suspects, just that police officers have their guns drawn in this area.
Yeah, and naturally, I'm sure people at home want you to zoom in because they want to see what's going on. But you're perfectly correct when you say you have to be careful, because at the same time it is an active scene and you don't want to show something that could be too sensitive at this point, because officers are actively searching for that suspect. And Tammy, as Chauncey and I were talking, these situations are happening all too often here in Houston, and you said you're one of the first people to witness what happens when something like this unfolds.
All right. So we know those 3 officers who were shot on the other scene at McGowan and Hutchins, they have been taken to Memorial Hermann. We're going to go out there live to Jessica Willey to see what she is seeing out there right now. Jessica?
Yeah, police officers continue to come here to the hospital where those 3 officers have been taken. Let me show you the scene right now. We just saw Houston Police Chief Troy Finner. He just walked into the hospital along with other members of his command staff. There's a public information officer, and as you can see, lots of other police officers and their vehicles. They had blocked streets earlier to get the ambulances in here quickly, and now the roads are open, but it is quite a spectacle out here as far as the the number of police vehicles here lining the streets right outside of Memorial Hermann Hospital. We are waiting for an update on those officers. I can tell you that I've been talking to police sources who tell me after those officers were shot, they were obviously taken here to the hospital, and the suspect, the shooter, then carjacked another man in Midtown. That's where that white Mercedes comes into play. That's according to my police sources, and police were able to track that white Mercedes to the area on Lockwood, and that is all connected. So yes, all of this happening very quickly, and hopefully to some sort of resolution shortly. But we are waiting for an update from police. What usually happens out here is that the command staff, the chief, will come in here, check on the condition of his officers. When they are ready, then they will come outside and give us an update as to the conditions. The union president is usually here, someone with the district attorney's office, the fire department. They will all come out in force to provide an update on the police officers. And obviously, when we get more information, we will get it to you. Chauncey?
Okay, Jessica Willey reporting right now from Memorial Hermann, where those officers were taken. We're just now starting to hear from people that saw what was happening today just after 2 o'clock. And I believe we have witness sound from somebody else who was there at the scene in 3rd Ward. Let's listen.
A lot of gunshots, that's all I heard.
How many did you hear?
Yeah, more than 30 of them.
More than 30?
More than 30 rounds or something. It was going off, I was over by the park, so it was more than 30 gunshots I heard. I was out there doing my little walk, working on my knee, and I heard all those gunshots, and then I heard the sirens and stuff coming out. So it was a lot of gunfire, I know that much.
Yeah, you heard once again those eyewitnesses out there in this neighborhood on Hutchins and McGowan in Houston's 3rd Ward. Once again, this came in as a disturbance call with a weapon at 2:40, and then that high-speed chase starts. I want to show you this exclusive surveillance video of how this all unfolded. Just such gripping video there as you see firsthand our officers, HPD officers, running towards danger here in this shootout. We want to go live right here to this intersection that has now been blocked off. Pooja Lodia is there on the ground live for us. What are you seeing now, Pooja?
You know, it's really important to note when you look at that surveillance video that all of this is unfolding right in the middle of a neighborhood. Take a look around me. There are so many homes out here. There are so many families, and many of them heard all of those gunshots. People I've spoken to out here say they heard 30 or more gunshots fired. Many of them came out here just to see what was going on, because this is obviously not something that you would expect to see or hear right next to your home. Now, if you saw that surveillance video, you know that these two vehicles that you're looking at live were involved. So that Dodge over there on the side, we see still there and still with bullet holes. We see also bullet holes in that HPD vehicle right in the middle of the street. Again, we are seeing more and more police officers out here. Even over the past couple of moments, we've been pushed back several times. You can see live as these motorcycle officers arrive to the scene. They are pushing people back so that neighbors and residents out here don't get involved, and they are completing their investigation. We have seen them asking residents for surveillance video. We have seen officers going door to door just trying to investigate and trying to find out exactly what happened here. But again, even as the minutes go by, we see more and more officers arriving, and we see this scene just continuing to expand. We have not seen anybody really approaching that unit right there in the middle of the street or that Dodge, but we do know, again, from that surveillance video that they are involved in this scene. We will, of course, let you know more as we learn more, but we are told that right now the Houston police chief, as well as other top managers, are, of course, going to the hospital. You just heard from Jessica Willey that the police chief had just arrived. That is because, of course, those officers and those managers are really concerned about the three officers who were shot. That is their priority right now as this investigation out here continues. Back to you.
Pooja, thank you so much, reporting live from the scene where this all went down. This is in 3rd Ward at McGowan. And so you see a lot of crime scene tape in that area. This is a crime scene now, obviously. So, you know, sometimes this takes a good while before they can actually clear things up. So police did tweet out earlier today saying, please avoid the area. This is an active scene. Now, we want to play that exclusive video one more time. And I want you to carefully listen to the gunshots, because our Ted Oberg will join us soon and talk to us about the gun violence and possibly the type of gun that may have been used in this incident. Let's listen. So there you heard rapid gunfire and then also separate guns, and it was sort of two different types of weapons here. So now we want to bring in our Ted Oberg. He has been following the crime violence, the gun violence here in the Houston area, and can fill us in, give us a little bit of perspective in the situation here, Ted. Good evening to you.
Yeah, boy, we certainly are all pulling for those officers and hope that they are doing okay there at the hospital. But what was one of the most indicative things that we heard in that video initially is how fast those shots came off that gun right at first. Right when the suspect opens the door to that Dodge Charger and starts firing towards the officers, they were so fast. That, together with some other information we've learned from the police, suggests that what this may have been is a small switch that's added to pistols that makes an ordinary Glock handgun, which fires one round, one bullet every time you pull the trigger, into a machine gun, which can unload all of the bullets in that clip. In this instance, maybe 15 or 16 or 17 rounds, all at once, very quickly, likely within a second and a half or 2 seconds, all aimed at those officers. Listen to this. It's right at that moment, Chauncey and Myra, right there. And what we have seen more and more on Houston streets is an explosion of these devices. The criminal element, according to the ATF, getting a hold of these things, sometimes for as little as $150. They add on to a handgun and they increase the danger for law enforcement. It was unfortunately used in the death of HPD officer Bill Jeffrey late last year, and this now a second police shooting here in Houston. ATF statistics suggest these have doubled in the last year as far as their cases and their seizures, some approaching triple in the Houston area, those statistics. These are incredibly dangerous and allow shooters to put all sorts of bullets down towards their target and unfortunately at all manner of people nearby. They are incredibly dangerous, and if HPD had come upon a suspect selling one of these switches, which is some indication we may have, that could be a real danger out on our streets.
Yeah, it really can be, Ted, because we're seeing this video for ourselves firsthand, just how dangerous it can be. And like you said, we're all praying and hoping that these 3 officers are okay. It's a tense situation. We don't know where the suspect is at this point, but again, just it's very eye-opening and very sad to see something like this happening here in our Houston area. You're looking right now at the live active scene that is happening in the 3rd Ward. And again, our camera obviously panning around and trying to talk to folks that are out there in the neighborhood. We did hear from a gentleman earlier today who said, I was just walking down the street and then all of a sudden I heard several gunshots back to back. And as Ted was mentioning, it's that switch, Chauncey, that they add to a handgun that makes these guns all the more dangerous for these officers.
And I think we heard the gentleman there say, who was on the scene, that he heard maybe 30 to 40 shots ring out. But just looking at this video, you can hear the pows, and they're just constant right after each other. But you know, you have to be honest. You have to really listen, and we can't exactly pinpoint as to whose shots are whose, and you know whose bullets are whose, because we know the allegedly that this suspect has a gun. We know officers are armed too, and then they after this crash they roll up here to this scene, and then the gunshots ring out just in a matter of seconds. That suspect, brazen as those officers are approaching the scene. We understand we have a live interview down by the scene. I'm guessing this is an eyewitness. Let's listen in.
The grass, and then his partner didn't even know he was shot, and then his partner fell over. I mean, it was. I mean, thank God the timing of it. We were not in the middle of it, but definitely scary.
What about you? What did you see here? Did you?
Yeah, I'm really thankful to that, because we left, like she said, we went to McDonald's. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally right up the street, not even 5 minutes, and we came back and all this was all here. So I'm pretty thankful that we weren't involved in this. I'm hoping all the police officers make a good recovery. My condolences go out to each one of those family members, man. It's heart-wrenching. So.
What goes through your mind when you hear like the details? To me, that's really like it gives you a bad feeling, right? When you hear the details of the officers like helping each other.
It's scary. It's heart-wrenching. Like you got to think about families and like the kids and like their wives that and they could possibly pass from this, and like somebody just took a family member away from a 4 or 5-year-old. It's sad. It's super sad. Right. So.
And especially right here, it's like in the middle of a neighborhood, right? These are families who live here.
Yes, and I mean, like that guy. I mean, he was walking to his car to go move his car from a fire hydrant so he wouldn't get a ticket. I mean, like there's innocent bystanders that could be affected by this too. So it's scary.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I could throw a rock from my bedroom to where this is at. That's how close we were. So, yeah, it's scary. Scary.
You think about, I know people are talking about hearing like more than 30 gunshots.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. They said that it was just like bop, 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 and like nonstop. And it's just like, to me, like, I don't know, as a person, how can you do that in your right mind?
Yeah.
So.
What are your names?
Sarah.
Sarah, how do I spell that?
S-A-R-A-H.
That's easy. And your last?
And that is our Pooja Lodia, who is live at the scene where this all went down. And again, you're looking at this video. This is exclusive video here to ABC 13 that shows the moment when police officers were confronted with a brazen suspect who pulled out a gun, firing at officers. You see it in this gray car here that crashes into a fence. Then you see officers not far behind, obviously trying to keep a safe distance. But at the moment that they stop, Someone opens the door, that suspect, and starts firing at officers. And at that moment, you just have to think about how fast these officers have to move away from this suspect, but at the same time, try to take him down, trying to stop them. So it's a really dangerous situation for officers to be confronted with somebody like this. And at this point, we're still trying to figure out here at ABC 13 where this suspect was coming from, what happened. All we know at this point is that at 2:40, around this time, is when they got a disturbance call with a weapon. So at that point, officers may have confronted the suspect, possibly a chase ensued. We're trying to get all those details for you, but this is where we're ended here at McGowan in the 3rd Ward. And this is video from our Houston TransStar here at McGowan where the scene is happening. And this is a live camera right now as we're panning around just to show you the proximity of where our highway is. This is 59 and not far from where the scene is happening. So we've been talking to people that live in this area. They were casually walking. It's a beautiful day. They were walking, they were going to and from, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this suspect crashes into a fence there in this neighborhood here in 3rd Ward, just a few miles really from 59, and then officers following right behind. And then out of nowhere, there's a shootout in the middle of this neighborhood here in 3rd Ward. So it's a really just sad situation to see that something like this is happening in broad daylight. But unfortunately, it is the reality that these officers are facing daily here in Houston as we talk about gun violence and the crime in our area that continues to skyrocket here. And again, this exclusive video is, there it is, one more time, playing one more time for you. And our Pooja Lodia there at the scene, we want to go back to her. She's the one that's talking to people that live in the neighborhood. And Pooja, every time we see this video, we're just completely stunned. It is just jaw-dropping, really.
And that is what we're hearing from people who live here, people who are seeing that video, people who heard all of those gunshots fired, just can't believe that this is going on right in front of their homes. I just talked to somebody who said that he just will never be able to look at this intersection in the same way. You can see the vehicles are still here in place. You can see these are actually the 3 units that were involved, that Dodge over there to the right, as well as the 2 HPD units. We just actually spoke to a resident who said that neighbors were talking, and some of them actually even saw these officers sort of try to help each other and try to dodge those gunshots. So this was actually very emotional for many of them. And you can see this scene here just continues to grow. We see groups and groups of officers walking around. They are, of course, talking to residents, trying to find out more about what happened as the investigation continues in other places. But the big thing out here and the big feeling out here is how could this whole thing happen and go down right in the middle of this residential area? It's scary for a lot of people, and understandably so. Back to you.
It really is, Pooja. We were talking to Ted Oberg earlier, who has really been investigating the core of this violence, the gun violence that we're seeing. And he was mentioning a converter switch. He did a story on this not long ago. So basically that switch can attach to a regular handgun, making a regular handgun extremely powerful and very dangerous. When we were replaying that exclusive video, if you listen carefully, you can hear it sort of sounds like a high-powered weapon, back-to-back bullets, or back-to-back, shooting rather. So you can just sort of hear the difference between 2 sets of weapons here: a really high-powered weapon, and then another one that sounds just like a regular gunshot. Listen in. So there you heard that difference between 2 sets of weapons here, one that sounds like a high-powered rifle and then a regular handgun. We're still trying to obviously figure out the details in the situation, but we do know this is an active scene here in the 3rd Ward. We just saw an officer comb through the scene one more time and put a second layer of crime tape, if you will, that red one. There was an officer that was walking around and placing it and securing that area, sort of trying to to keep people away from this scene, but it's really difficult because it's in the middle of a neighborhood and people are really wondering what is going on in my backyard. Sadly, this crazy situation unfolding just after 2 o'clock today.
You heard that one eyewitness talking about he heard at least 30 to 40 shots here on the scene. All right, we want to recap. We want to rewind and take you back. The call came in around 2:40 this afternoon, a disturbance call with a weapon. That's when the call came in. HPD says it was a high-speed chase. They were chasing that gray Dodge Charger here that you see right there on your screen, just beyond that crime scene tape. We were also told that after this shootout, 3 officers were shot here. Once again, this is on Hutchins and McGowan in Houston's 3rd Ward. That suspect took off. Right now, we're being told by HPD that suspect is still on the loose. Then we understand we go to a second active scene, which was there on Lockwood and Hirsch, because HPD was looking for a white Mercedes, in which we did not see that car in the exclusive surveillance video. But minutes after our reporting, Tammy Rose and Sky Eye got on the scene there of Lockwood and Hirsch as HPD officers had their guns out, their guns drawn, and had that Mercedes surrounded. So we're still waiting on more information as to exactly how the Mercedes car is connected here to this scene. But once again, that call coming in at 2:40. And I want to show this exclusive video again because we rarely get to see exactly how this all unfolds in the exact moment. And you hear that barrage of bullets, just so many gunshots there. And you're going to hear us use the word allegedly, because in situations like this, although we are seeing the video and we are making an educated guess as to what we're seeing, we don't officially know until HPD tells us, you know, the suspect did shoot and our officers fired back. So we're making an educated guess and just taking you through this exclusive video, seeing exactly what you're seeing. But it's going to be interesting to get that official word from HPD as to exactly how this all unfolded. I know people are watching the coverage at home and they're tweeting us saying, why are you saying allegedly? This guy had a gun and he was shooting. But we have to still say allegedly because we want to get that official word from HPD as to exactly what happened here.
Yes, and I think people at home, they want to know right away. They want the information, what happened, who, what, when, where, why, and we understand. But at this point, when it's an active scene and when things are happening so quickly, it is really hard to try to give you all the details because we're waiting on police to make their investigation before we get the concrete information. Now, at this point, I understand we have another reporter on the scene. This is a separate scene at Lockwood in the 5th Ward area. I believe it is our Courtney Carpenter. She is out there at a separate scene, and at this point, we're trying to see if these scenes are connected or not. Courtney, are you there for us? Can you take us through what you're seeing in this active situation?
Sure, guys. We just got out here moments ago, out here in the 5th Ward, as you mentioned. We're here on, this is Arasta Street, right near Hershey. We're just off Lockwood. And here's a look at kind of what's going on right now. As you mentioned, we don't know for sure yet if these scenes are connected. Really haven't gotten any other details about what's going on here. We're being told to take a few steps back now, but we're working to get more information out here on what exactly is going on. I have spoken to a few people. There's several people out here that were just around their apartments and around their homes when this started a bit ago. One man said that he did hear a lot of shots out here, but we're just trying to get some more information. Right now, just had a chance to speak to a few people. They just say they don't know what's going on, and of course, they sure would like to know. We're moving back a little right now as the police are asking us to. But that's really all the information right now. Like you said, we don't know for sure that these scenes are connected, but certainly a heavy police presence, a lot of folks out here. It seems like there's a lot of the activity on one of those apartments over there just off Lockwood Drive. So we'll continue to keep you guys updated out here and work to bring you the latest from this scene here, guys.
Courtney, thanks so much. And I know you were mentioning you were not sure just yet if it was connected, but we just confirmed that both scenes are connected. So the 1 and 3rd Ward, where Pooja is at the moment, where we saw the officers confronting that suspect and gunfire erupted, that is connected to this scene that you're looking at live right now, where our Courtney Carpenter is. This is in 5th Ward. And this is at Lockwood and Hirsch. Both scenes, the 1 in 5th Ward and 3rd Ward, are connected.
And Courtney, I know that they're just now roping this off. I want you to give us a lay of the land as to exactly how far are you away from the exact scene there, because while we are covering this, we are also behind the scenes talking to sources, and I have 2 different sources right now telling me that the suspect may be barricaded here on Lockwood. So tell me what you're seeing as far as how far back they have you from the exact scene where the officers are centered on out there.
Yeah, Chauncey, I would say we're a good several hundred yards back from that area. From what we were seeing when we first got out here, it seemed like there was a lot of activity. There were several of these brown brick apartments in front of us, but over there on the right side of Hirsch Street is where we're seeing a lot of the activity. So again, not exactly sure, but it seems like there's a lot of activity even on the side and the front of that front apartment that you're able to see from here right now. So we're several hundred yards back. And like I said, those folks out here were saying that they heard shots earlier, and but really no one else knows really what's going on just yet.
Got you. And Courtney, here back at the studio, I have 2 different sources telling me that a suspect is barricaded here at this apartment complex on Lockwood. So we're trying to get more information here. We want to show you back at the other scene where this all unfolded right there in the 3rd Ward off of McGowan. We want to let you take a look at this exclusive video once again, and we want to talk about the gunshots and just how powerful they were and how many rang out. And then we want to go back to Ted Oberg to talk about this converter Glock switch that might have been used today. All right, we want to bring Ted Oberg in, and Ted, you know, we've been talking about this video and playing it over and over again because, as you know, we rarely ever get to see it all play out. It just, you know, firsthand, at least right after it all unfolds. So talk about this this Glock converter switch that might have been used.
Yeah, I think what we are seeing firsthand in almost real time, Chauncey, is how absolutely outgunned some Houston police officers can be. It's that first volley of gunshots that we're talking about 8 seconds after that suspect's car crashes there at that intersection. The shots ring out. It's that fast volley of shots, probably 15 to 30 rounds in less than 3 seconds, aimed at those officers and at all of those townhomes right nearby. Whether it's a switch or an automatic weapon somehow obtained illegally, that is the problem that officers are increasingly facing on our streets. These devices are being found 3 times more often now than they were just a year ago. On the Houston streets, the criminal element has decided that these are the cool new thing to have, and the people that put in danger are certainly every officer on Houston streets, but Chauncey and Myra, you and I, and anyone who may be close. Because the thing about using these devices is that they are absolutely unpredictable. They make a gun virtually impossible to control. When you look at what these guns can do, there it is. You heard that. It's not the 1, 2, 3 coming from the officers back towards the suspect. It's that fast volley, almost impossible to hear one shot after the other. Chauncey and Myra, it is changing the game for how officers respond in shootings like this, but also think about just crime scenes that we have seen all over. Drive-by shootings, shootings in crowded areas where a shooter is able to put 15 or 30 rounds towards their target in a matter of seconds. There's just almost no way to protect yourself from that.
And Ted, you can provide some insight here for us. How easy is it to purchase a switch like this? I understand that maybe some folks may not know that it's a dangerous thing to have, and they purchase it because it's easy, but then criminals get it as well.
There is no way for a legal gun owner to have this, except in very rare circumstances. They are illegal because they're dangerous. They've been illegal across this country, in Texas and every other state under federal law for decades, and yet they are coming into this country from outside and being sold all the time. It's not necessarily something that you would ever see in a gun store for sale because, as I say, they're illegal. A few gun stores have them available to look at, but certainly not leave the premises with. Look, these are automatic weapons on city streets in America. Just it's simply dangerous. Not taking a position on any gun control issue. These are illegal and have been for a long, long time. And yet, just like many other illegal things that are on the streets, they're available easily, unfortunately, for sale within the criminal element. And Myra, to your question, they are not that expensive and they're not that hard to put on. A couple $100 and 10 seconds and your gun turns into a machine gun. And we saw it on Houston streets today, and 3 officers are at the hospital because of it.
And it's very eye-opening. It definitely puts this into perspective how dangerous these switches are and how easy it is for these criminals to get one.
And can I, when we were listening to what Chauncey and Myra, when we were listening to the folks that Pooja and Courtney were talking to, people who live nearby, people who said they could, a stone's throw their bedroom is from where this person was shooting, sitting inside that Dodge Charger, shooting all of those rounds. That gun, even for experienced shooters, is virtually impossible to control, and you can see just how close all those townhomes were. Boy, the danger is hard to describe, hard to find the right words to describe how dangerous that was.
Yeah, definitely, and it's just a terrible situation. But we do have an update on the officers that were taken to Memorial Hermann. We understand, and this is according to HPD, they are all in stable condition.
Good news there. Certainly a good update.
Sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Yes. We're definitely still praying for them. We don't know the extent of their injuries right now, but we do know the 3 officers are stable. So that gives us a sigh of relief because this is just a crazy situation. At this point, we did see Pooja Lodia there, as I imagine they're probably being told to get pushed back from the scene a little bit further down. But she has been monitoring this area, this active scene where it all started. And Pooja, if we can go back to you and just sort of take us through what you have been seeing and hearing from these residents that live there.
That's right, Myra. Houston police are once again expanding their scene. Take a look at what is happening here around me. You can see just groups and groups of officers. Many of them are talking to residents because this really is one of those instances where there were a lot of witnesses. There were so many people out here who heard those gunshots. We've also seen officials here from the ATF. They are assisting due to the guns that were used in this scene. Now, the thing about these gunshots, when we talk to residents about them, many of them say they've never heard anything like this. This wasn't just a couple of gunshots or even 30 gunshots that they would be used to hearing. This was 30 back to back, and that's why so many of them were so concerned and just taken aback by it. In fact, some people we've spoken to say this kind of hurts more than it would otherwise. When they hear about things like this hurts even more because of where it happened. This happened right in the middle of a residential area. There are so many families out here. Again, so many people heard these shots, and we've even spoken to neighbors who have talked to other people who saw those police officers helping each other, helping get one another to safety, kind of dodging those bullets. So they say that seeing that was actually extremely emotional. So the investigation out here continues. You can see that is the Dodge over there on my right. You can see both of the HPD units that were involved in this, based on the surveillance video that we saw, are still untouched right here in the middle of the street. And the area that law enforcement have sort of set aside, it just keeps expanding as their investigation out here continues. Back to you.
Pooja, thank you so much for giving us perspective into the scene that's happening there in the 3rd Ward. So we just got some new information, and everybody in the newsroom here at ABC 13, all hands on deck really to try to figure this situation out and sort things out and get information confirmed, because we know you at home, you want to know what's going on, who could have done something like this. We understand the suspect is Roland Caballero, and he has priors here in Harris County. So Roland Caballero is who we understand is the suspect that was leading police on a chase, crashed, and then opened fire.
And ABC 13 police sources telling us that this suspect may be holed up here at that intersection on Lockwood and Hirsch in the 5th Ward as police are trying to make contact with him and apprehend him. That's where we find Courtney Carpenter. She's been on this scene, just getting there to the ground. Courtney, what are you seeing out there now at Lockwood and Hirsch?
That's right here at, we're a little pushed back into this park now, just waiting to see exactly what's happening. Of course, hearing those sources say that the suspect is up there, holed up in one of those apartments, just waiting to find out more. Honestly, since we spoke to you last, there hasn't been as much police activity that we can see. The thing is, we're just pushed farther back now, obviously for safety, I assume, but it is just tougher to see exactly what's going on. But you can see a ton of police activity, still a lot of folks around here in this park. There were folks just walking around, obviously, that live here, heard shots and are trying to figure out what's going on. But right now, really where it is tough to tell exactly where, what exactly is going to happen next. But we have seen some activity, and we saw right when we first got here a lot of the police activity heading up towards that front apartment there, that front brick apartment. A lot of police activity heading over there that way. So we'll continue to keep you updated, and of course, whenever we hear further information about what's going on. But as I said, just got a little bit tougher as we've been pushed back to be able to tell you exactly what's going on up there.
And thank you, Courtney. And according to our sources, the reason why you're being pushed back is because they're trying to make sure you all get a very, very safe distance from the house or the apartment where this is all taking place. Apparently, according to our sources, that the suspect may be holed up here in this apartment complex. And this is at the same time when we're getting more information on this suspect, whose mugshot you see right there on your screen.
Yeah, Roland Caballero is the suspect. We just confirmed that information not long ago. Our Jessica Willie is live at Memorial Hermann. That is where the 3 officers were taken to, which now we understand they're in stable condition, so that is good news to hear. Jessica, you also have some sources that have been giving you information. What can you report at this hour about that suspect?
Yeah, according to my sources, that suspect has priors in Harris County. Like you said, he has a couple of warrants as well, and is a witness in a double murder. Those all coming from police sources. Roland Caballero, as you said, is his name, and he is linked to the address there on Lockwood. I am told there was some sort of shootout there. We're waiting to see the results of that, but that obviously is why Courtney and the other crews there are being held far away from that scene. Here at Memorial Hermann Hospital, let me just show you how the police officers, so many police officers, city officials, folks with the DA's office, the Houston Fire Department, they are here waiting on word as to how these officers are doing. According to the Houston Police Department, they just tweeted it out. They are stable. These officers are stable. And I just heard back from the police union president, Doug Griffith. I asked how the officers are doing, and he says that they are doing good. That I don't have any more context besides that, but that obviously is good news. So we are waiting for an update as they get more information, as this develops more. We will hear from Police Chief Troy Finner as well as other city officials when they get more information as this progresses, as these officers are being treated. Usually they don't address the media until they have more information, can answer more, and obviously know more about what is going on regarding just the circumstances around the shootout in Midtown. Those officers being fired upon, the suspect then carjacking somebody to get into that white Mercedes, I'm told, and then getting over to that area on Lockwood where he is holed up and is present and police have surrounded. So that's what I know from my police sources. Obviously, we are here at the hospital wanting to know more about how these officers are doing, and certainly lots of people here for support and offering their prayers, their support as well. We have seen Police Chief Troy Finner, but we have not heard yet from him. The public information officers, several of them are here on scene, and we hope to hear more about when they will be giving an update to the media. Guys, back to you.
Jessica, thank you. Yeah, and you brought up a good point, because we were wondering why were police looking for a white Mercedes when in the exclusive video we saw what looked like a gray Charger. Can you take us through that one more time? You know, how police were able to hone in on this white Mercedes? You were saying that he was possibly carjacked?
Yeah, so I was told that, you know, the alleged shooter, the suspect, got out of that Charger, and it's kind of off camera. I mean, you can't see that on the video, obviously, because we would be able to connect it more, but then you know, got a short distance away and carjacked somebody there in the Midtown area, a person who works in downtown Midtown area but lives in the suburbs, carjacked that person and then got away in that white Mercedes, because yeah, we don't see it in the video. All we see is that Charger, that gray Charger, firing, you know, the person in that vehicle firing on the officers, but the white Mercedes off camera, and the driver of that carjacked, and we don't know the condition of that person. Obviously, we're working to get more information about that as well. But yeah, that person does not live in that area, lives in the suburbs, and was carjacked by this suspect, this alleged shooter, and then he was able to get away from that scene in Midtown. But obviously, officers being able to track him down. I mean, they have the car. I think they had his identity from the original scene in Fifth Ward where this all initiated, and were able to you know, get them to that address there on Lockwood where he is at the moment.
All right, and speaking of that Lockwood scene, Jessica, I know we're all talking to our police sources. So according to one of my sources, that the suspect, Roland Caballero, does have a gunshot wound to the neck. He is holed up here at this apartment complex, and they are still just sitting on this scene. But a source does tell me that this suspect does have a gunshot wound to the neck. So as all of this is unfolding, Maida, certainly a big sigh of relief that these officers there, the 3 officers shot, are in stable condition, and the chief saying that they should be okay.
Yeah, goodness, this has been a tense situation. Want to recap all of this for you if we can, if you're just now joining us or finding out about this or watching us on abc13.com or our news app. So this came in at 2:40 as a disturbance call with a weapon. That's what we understand. Soon after is when we saw this exclusive video, which was, we believe now, Roland Caballero behind the wheel of a gray Charger who crashes at McGowan there in the Third Ward area. We saw officers try to stop him, try to take him down, but then off camera, we noticed he was gone, and we didn't know what happened, and then all of a sudden, police say, oh, we're looking for a white Mercedes. So now we know that he carjacked Roland Caballero, the suspect, that police are now waiting to see what happens as he's holed up in Fifth Ward. They said he carjacked someone, just a random person that was driving by, carjacked that person, took the vehicle, and ended up in the Fifth Ward area. So you see this map here. It gives you the perspective of where these 2 neighborhoods are. Lockwood at Lyons is where police are waiting right now. Chauncey was saying that his sources are telling him that he is holed up in an apartment complex there with a gunshot wound to the neck. That's what his sources are telling us. And where it all started, you see that, the 2100 block of McGowan. So that's how these 2 scenes are connected. In between all of this chaos, that suspect, Roland Caballero, carjacked somebody, took that white Mercedes, and ended up right here here live where you see this scene unfolding right now. So a very crazy situation the last couple of hours.
It is crazy, and they're being very strategic because you have to think about what all has unfolded. You already have 3 officers shot at the hospital, recovering now, and then you have this suspect allegedly holed up here in this house, according to police sources. And I'm also being told that he does still have a weapon on him. So they're being very strategic. You heard Courtney Carpenter talking about how they were pushing them back and back, trying to make sure that the media and eyewitnesses and everyone in that neighborhood in 5th Ward are at a safe distance, because at this point we just don't know what to expect from this suspect.
And Chauncey, you and I have both been in this situation as reporters where you're at a scene, you're trying to get information, but at the same time you have to be very careful because it's an active situation and you just don't want to be in a dangerous position. So that is why officers obviously continue to push the media back and you know, get them to a safe zone, if you will, because this is a very tense situation that's unfolding every minute on the hour here, really. And our Pooja Lodia is in the 3rd Ward where everything unfolded. We want to go back to her, see if she has learned any new information or anything else you can tell us, Pooja, that is happening there as
I think the big thing is a lot of people are now starting to come home and are finding this in front of their homes. Again, I cannot reiterate enough just how shocking and dangerous this is for all of them, considering where this whole thing went down. This is right in the middle of a residential area. There are so many families who live right here in this area. Some of them, of course, heard all of those gunshots and they were extremely concerned, and they keep saying that it didn't sound like regular gunfire. It sounded like something much more dangerous, and they didn't even know what it was at first. Other people are coming home and saying, are you kidding me? I never expected something like this to happen right in front of my home. And like you said, that the crime scene out here just keeps expanding. We have seen fewer police officers here than we saw maybe about an hour ago, but the investigation here continues. We have also seen officials here with the ATF. They are assisting on everything that is going on out here. But one of the things that officers here on scene keep telling us is that right now they have 2 focuses right now as they sort of work out what happened here. They're trying to do the investigation, but the police chief and so many people with the Houston Police Department are over at the hospital because they are, of course, concerned when you think about what those 3 officers went through. I mean, we have talked to residents out here who say that they saw those Houston police officers helping one another, helping each other kind of get out of the way, get away from the bullets and get to safety. And that was, of course, a very emotional thing for them to witness. And it really just adds to the whole feeling out here, the feeling of confusion and the feeling of shock. Back to you.
Yeah, confusion and shock out there as all of this chaos unfolded. We want to go back to early this afternoon right there in 3rd Ward at McGowan. Right there on that corner you saw Pooja Lodia. This is how it all unfolded. And just shortly after that, allegedly that suspect takes off. According to HPD, the suspect, Roland Caballero, allegedly carjacks a white Mercedes, then leads police on that chase right here to Lockwood at Lyons. And that's where Courtney Carpenter has been, as our police sources are telling us that this suspect is holed up there at an apartment. Courtney, what's the very latest?
We were actually just hearing a bit from the PIO here, John Cannon, HPD. He was not able to tell us anything, just kept saying, of course, we're going to have to get that information from a news conference later over at the hospital where Chief Finner will be, but was giving us an update that there might be one of the SWAT vehicles brought through here in a bit. But as far as how the scene is looking, honestly, there's still a bunch of, obviously, a ton of law enforcement still out here standing on this side of those apartments. from those sources, of course, learning that the suspect in all of this may be holed up over there. So we're just waiting to learn more exactly about what's going on here and how that might all turn out. We've seen a lot of police activity in that front apartment over there on the right side, and we're back here in this park off Erastus Street near Hirsch, but that is over on Lockwood. We're not far off Lockwood Drive here in 5th Ward. The people who live around here say they heard several shots fired out here earlier today, a bit of a shootout. So we're trying to find out a little more information on that. But for now, a lot of law enforcement out here just standing by, HPD, SWAT out here. So that's pretty much the scene right now. We're still just working to find out more information. As I mentioned, that public information officer from HPD is out here, but wasn't able to confirm anything or give us any more information at this time. Just said that's going to come from the chief later on over at the hospital. Guys?
Courtney, thank you so much, reporting from that second active scene where we understand that suspect Roland Caballero is holed up. At this point, we want to read to you a statement from the mayor's office. We just received this. So this is what the mayor's office is saying about this situation. Quote, 3 Houston police officers were shot in the line of duty today, and I'm relieved to hear their injuries are non-life-threatening. He continues on to say, my thoughts and prayers go out to them, and I will be at the hospital soon to check on their recovery, thank them for their service, and speak to their families. I ask everyone to pray for the officers who were shot and for every law enforcement officer working on the streets of Houston. We live in dangerous times, he said, and it will take all of us working together to make our city safe. So that is a statement from Mayor Turner's office. And right now, Eric Barajas is joining me. And Eric, I'm sure you guys were watching this in the newsroom and still just stunned, jaw-dropping.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, as you and Chauncey know at this point, but here is the genesis of how this really all began this afternoon. Is the initial video that we got coming into our newsroom. You see the officer running off to the left of your screen, and this is where the shootout really heats up. You see they've already put several bullets into that police cruiser, which sent it smoking there from just under the hood, and then several shots fired right here. And then at some point, which we've looked at this and just really dissected this video so much over the last couple of hours in the newsroom. It's not clear to see, but that car door's open on that Dodge right there. The victim, I should say, the suspect right here, Roland Caballero, is what we're getting told right now in the newsroom, is the one that was in that Dodge Charger that was being pursued by police and ended up crashing there at the corner of McGowan. And this is a previous mugshot of his. We've been digging into his background. We have a lot more on that coming up later on in the broadcast. But if you look at the right of your screen as well, those are the 2 different scenes we're working at this point. There could even be more as well. But we've also been joined here by Mel as well. And Mel, you know, we've been looking at this video here in the newsroom. Again, it's eerie to know this was playing out on Houston streets in the middle or just before the afternoon commute.
And we should mention that this is 3rd Ward, just a few blocks away from Emancipation Park, if you know that area. And a beautiful afternoon, lots of people out walking, obviously people in the park not so far away, and a whole series of townhouses there where people are living. And this literally played out in front of those townhouses. So we're watching this video over and over again because it's hard to believe that this is real. It almost looks like a movie playing out, except the fact that there were so many, just a barrage of bullets flying at this point. But we want to mention that we are about to start live at 5. We're continuing our coverage right now. Breaking news near downtown Houston. We can now confirm that 3 HPD officers have been shot this afternoon. And officers say a suspect is barricaded with a gunshot wound to the neck in the heart of 5th Ward.
That's right. Now, the shooting, to backtrack here and kind of get you caught up here, it happened on McGowan Street right here. That Challenger crashing, can't make the turn on that street. We have exclusive video of exactly what went down right here. You won't see it anywhere else. And surveillance caught the moments the suspect crashes there with HPD officers right behind him. You can see they get into a patrol car, a shootout right there, and that's when that driver opens fire. Again, smoke coming from the hood as it took on bullets as well. Let's listen in on that moment really quickly. Again, we're breaking down what you're seeing and hearing because it definitely sounded like we heard automatic gunfire right there. More on that in a moment. But again, police tell us they initially got a call at 2:40 p.m. about some sort of disturbance in Northeast Houston on Trials Street. Then a chase begins right there, ending in a crash right here on McGowan Street. That firefight ensues between the driver and police. The suspect then allegedly carjacked someone in a white Mercedes right here. And this is a look at his previous mugshot. We're also told at this point, police tracked him down to the 5th Ward.
Now, this is where the suspect is barricaded right now. This is the scene in 5th Ward, as Eric just mentioned, on Lockwood and Hershey in the 5th Ward. The suspect that they are really holding up there is named Roland Caballero, and officers say he has a gunshot wound to the neck right now.
Okay, so those 3 officers were rushed to the hospital that were hit, we're told. ABC 13's Jessica Willey will have an update for us right here live at Memorial Hermann. What is the latest you're hearing, Jessica?
Yeah, Eric, Melanie, unbelievable when you see that video, the barrage of gunfire those officers faced. And now Houston Mayor Turner says those officers suffered non-life-threatening injuries. What good news. I also checked in with the police union president. He tells me those officers are doing well. And also, according to Houston police, their Twitter page, they say that those officers are stable. We are outside Memorial Hermann Hospital, where, of course, when officers are injured, this is where they are taken because they have a level 1 trauma center here. And we are waiting an update from Police Chief Troy Finner. The mayor is on his way. We've seen Houston Fire Department Chief Pena here as well. Other city officials, other members of the command staff waiting for more details about how these officers are doing. But in one single word, I'm told they are doing good. And then again, the mayor saying non-life-threatening injuries is what they have suffered, and that is all good news. Obviously, just moments after this shooting happened, police were here in full force, lots of sirens heading this way. The streets were blocked off, and trying to get those ambulances in as quickly as possible. The good thing is that that scene was not too far away from the hospital, so it was a very short drive, and they were able to be treated the entire way. But again, we are here outside Memorial Hermann Hospital, where officers are brought when they are injured, waiting for an update from Houston Police Chief Troy Finner. We are told it could be within the last hour and that we will get a heads up. And of course, when we get the latest, we will bring it to you. Reporting live from the medical center, Jessica Willey, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
Jessica, what a relief to hear that all of those officers suffered only non-life-threatening injuries. Hard to believe when you see that shootout in the middle of McGowan.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think what we all, when we all watch that video, it just seems unreal. It looks like a movie. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it looks like a movie. Those officers faced that barrage of gunfire, and incredibly, they did not suffer worse injuries, and certainly, you know, great news, and people are here in support and certainly sending their prayers this way.
Prayers being answered right now. Jessica, thank you so much. Well, officers are telling us that the suspect took off, got into another vehicle, making it all the way to Northeast Houston to the 5th Ward neighborhood. And that's where ABC 13's Courtney Carpenter is at the scene. The suspect apparently holed up, barricaded there. Courtney, I know they moved you back, but what have you learned from the police officers there?
Well, Mel, so far, just moments ago, one of the public information officers for HPD was out here. He said he couldn't confirm anything, couldn't give me any info here. All of that will come from that presser that Jessica is waiting on down there at the hospital. But I'll step aside so you guys can see what we're looking at here. Just since last time we spoke, seems like this silver car who's coming out now was actually parked horizontally across the road right when we arrived. So some movement over here in the last few minutes. An ambulance pulled up, and that white van, not sure exactly what that white van, no markings on it, not sure what it's for. But that's what we're hearing. Of course, that suspect is holed up. There has been some police activity up in that front apartment just off Lockwood there, but still haven't heard anything else. The folks who live out here that I talked to right when I got on scene said that they heard a bit of a shootout, lots of shots fired back and forth. So Still working to learn more from officials, but that's what sources are saying, that the suspect is up here at one of these apartments. We're here in this park, kind of pushed back to be safe off Erastus, but all this going on off Lockwood Drive in 5th Ward. And yeah, that's really the latest that we've been able to see, not just a few movement of the vehicles and obviously a ton of law enforcement around here. The perimeter, all the streets around here certainly blocked off as they work to kind of figure out what's next with this suspect being here, we're told. Mel?
All right, Courtney, and at this point, it looks like he's in the middle of an apartment complex. Have you been able to talk to anybody who lives there, or are they all being told to stay inside?
Yeah, some of the people that were outside when we first arrived, they since told them to put, everyone was trying to have their phones out and get some video, trying to figure out what's going on. Several people out here when we first arrived, they've pushed us all back. So we're all kind of back here in this park now, just waiting to see, kind of what happened. Even I spoke to a couple of guys who walked over from another apartment complex, just trying to say, hey, I heard what's going on, and everyone just wants to know. We understand that, and we do too, just trying to get some more information for you guys on what exactly is going on out here. But yeah, people are really curious and wanting to know what the deal is. And we actually parked right up there by those apartments when we first arrived, and since then just pushed back for safety. So that's kind of the situation out here for now.
All right, Courtney Carpenter, we appreciate that so much. Now, this is the second scene that we've been telling you about where they believe that suspect is barricaded inside. We want to go back to the original scene where ABC 13's Pooja Lodia has been all afternoon. This is where the crash and really that unbelievable shootout just played out. And Pooja, what are things looking like there? Do you still have a large police presence at that location as well?
Yes, and we continue to also be pushed back away from this scene. I can tell you that there are fewer police officers here than there were, I would say, just about an hour ago, but we do still see officers here from the ATF. We also see officers going door to door, talking to people, trying to figure out exactly what people heard and trying to see if they have surveillance video that captured all of this. The thing about this is that when this happened, a lot of people were home. I mean, it was about 2:40 p.m. So people heard this happen. People were concerned, and they continue to be concerned. In fact, many of them are really confused now because now they're hearing about other scenes and they're trying to sort of piece together exactly what happened here. The big thing that all of them are telling me that they remember hearing are all of those gunshots. They say it just didn't sound like the kind of gunfire they have ever heard before. So they are looking for more answers. And take a look while you're watching live. You can see detectives here on scene taking photos, taking close-ups of this scene, because that Dodge that you were looking at was involved, according to the surveillance video, also the police SUV right in the middle of the street, as well as this one over here to my left. And you can see just more and more people are showing up. I don't know if those people who just arrived here are witnesses or if they just happen to be around, because again, a lot of people are very concerned because so many families do live out here, and this is not something that they expected to have happen right in front of their homes. Melanie?
Unbelievable. All right. Thank you so much, Pooja. We do want to talk about the suspect now. Roland Caballero is his name. And take a look at all of these mugshots. He's got quite a rap sheet. We know that he's 31 years old. There are open warrants for unlawful carrying of a weapon and aggravated robbery. He has a previous criminal history, including aggravated assault, possession of a weapon, and obviously that's the big concern this afternoon, Eric, was the fact that he did have a weapon. And we heard at one point, it just sounded like machine gun fire.
Yeah, it sounded like an automatic weapon, but we're finding out more on that and digging into that, Mel. Thank you. Okay, let's get you live right again. Back up from Sky Eye. Here's Lockwood here. This is the other scene we've been telling you about, where police had told us that they had barricaded, that suspect, I should say, had barricaded himself in this multiplex right here. Now, we were also told as well that Roland Caballero, that 31-year-old suspect, had a gunshot wound to his neck, according to police officers. We're told he was holed up in here. We've seen some vehicles start to leave this scene here. It's not exactly clear what is exactly happening at this point in terms of what's taking place, if he's still holed up in there or if they've been able to get him into custody. But if you look at the left side of your screen here, officers, it's not a tense situation outside this building. If someone was armed inside that building, we've seen officers in previous situations similar to this act in a much different way. So the relaxed vibe right there is something that we're trying to get more information on. Again, we're being told the suspect went into a multiplex here at this scene off of Lockwood.
And you can see Tammy Rose is live above the scene in Sky Eye, where you can see a lot of activity there. Tammy, can you update us?
Yeah, Mel, because this is an active scene, my pilot Tom Noda and I are about 2 miles away. Now, this is near Lockwood and Hirsch. I'll put Sky Map up here for you, just to put some perspective on how far this is from the other scene where the high-speed chase ended near 1600 or Lockwood, or the other place that it ended. It's about 4.5 miles to where the suspect drove and now is holed up in this neighborhood. And we actually got a little bit closer to the scene when we first arrived, and it was quite active, and we saw officers with their guns drawn, and it looked like there was some damage to one of the homes. I'm not sure if that's where he broke in or from bullet holes. And then there was also a Mercedes with the trunk up. So that's kind of what the scene looked like when we first arrived on scene, and then obviously we had to back off. We never want to get too close to these scenes when it's active. We don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but again, this is near Lockwood and Hirsch, where the neighborhood is shut down, so avoid the area if you can. Mel?
Tammy, and that is the heart of the 5th Ward there, Lockwood, very close to Hirsch at this point, as we continue to look at all of those police vehicles there gathered around. And then, as Eric mentioned, on the left side of your screen, you can see officers outside of that apartment complex where they believe the suspect is holed up inside, barricaded inside there. We don't yet know whether or not they've made contact with the suspect, whether or not they are talking to him by telephone, but we do know, as Eric mentioned, at this point they seem to be fairly relaxed given the seriousness of what happened earlier today.
All right, I believe now, as we kind of show you these pictures here, we'd heard that gunfire come from the vehicle. And again, there's so many questions surrounding exactly what is audible in that piece of video and the audio that does come with it. From all accounts here, especially in our newsroom, let's go ahead and listen. We want to let you hear this piece of audio again before we start to really jump into what you're hearing and what could possibly have happened. Let's play that for you right now. Well, you could hear the rat-a-tat-tat-tat come out of that Charger right there. Now, then when you hear officers, they're going bang, bang, bang. Obviously, that's a rudimentary way to break down the audio. We're all listening to, Mel. So there's a lot of questions surrounding what type of weapon the person driving that vehicle was using against officers. And we want to go to Ted Oberg right now. Now, Ted, obviously at this point, we know that we can't find out just yet what type of weapon the person was using that was inside of that vehicle. But we have done some extensive reporting, especially you and the 13 Investigates team, on some weapons that have been found on Houston streets, including some types that are called Glock switch that can turn a handgun and other weapons into somewhat basically automatic weapons.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. And I don't think your description of it was rudimentary. I think that's probably what we're all doing, just shocked at the rapid fire out of that Dodge Charger just seconds after it sort of crashes there at that intersection a couple hours ago. What you are hearing there is not what a typical handgun would do. For people who aren't familiar with most handguns, you have to pull the trigger to fire one bullet, then you pull it again to fire another. You can do it quickly, but what we heard was not someone pulling a trigger 30 times in a couple seconds. That was somehow a modified weapon to be a machine gun there on Houston streets. And as you point out, Eric, we've been doing some work in the 13 Investigates office on this because they're absolutely exploding in the city of Houston. Investigations and seizures of these things up close to 300% year over year, according to the ATF, who we know is on the scene of this shooting today to investigate and help wherever they can. These are incredibly dangerous, not only because they fire so many rounds so quickly, but Melanie and Eric, they are so dangerous because they are virtually impossible to control. And when you hear that the 3 officers, who really weren't more than a couple car lengths away, are doing okay, 1, we're certainly thankful, but 2, it speaks to how hard that weapon is likely to control. An automatic weapon, even one that's modified like this, is very hard to control, and it will move in your hand almost uncontrollably as it empties all of those rounds. It is capable, by the way, of firing as many as 30 rounds in under 2.5 seconds. It is almost unimaginable to think about that in 2 respects. 1, as a police officer, by the time you react to what you're hearing, it's virtually impossible to get cover. And then the second thing is, when you look at that scene, Eric and Mel, it is surrounded by townhomes. And as Pooja has said all afternoon, surrounded by townhomes where people were home at that hour of the day. It's amazing that none of them were hurt, but in instances across the city and across the country, we are seeing these uncontrollable, illegally modified automatic weapons are spraying bullets and hitting unintended targets all the time.
Yeah, and we can see here in the video as those police officers attempted to hide behind their car there, and we can see some of the windows blown out. Ted, we have seen these shootings involving police officers just in the last couple of weeks. I know you have been studying this. Yeah. Can you give us some sense of what things are like in Houston, in the Houston and Harris County area right now?
Yeah, it's not our imagination. It does seem, I think, to all of us that shootings against officers are going way up this year, right? We've seen these things. We saw the awful incidents in New York last weekend. Deputy Galloway this weekend here in Harris County. So far this year, according to a group, the Gun Violence Archive, which tracks shootings across our country, there have been 36 officers, law enforcement officers, injured or killed through today, including 3 officers here in Houston today. At this time last year, it was 20. Not quite double, but very close. Almost twice as many law enforcement officers around our country injured or killed by gunfire this year. It is a staggering increase. I think it speaks to the problem that police agencies are having across our country, dealing with now going into its 3rd year of this crime wave that we've seen really in almost every major American city, Mel. And when you think about what's happened here in Houston, all of the officers shot, either killed or injured in Texas in both this January and January 2021 were all in the Houston area. Yeah. So there is no city in Texas that is dealing with this worse than we are. It is a serious, serious problem.
And as you mentioned, outgunned in so many of these cases by the criminals that they are having to deal with. Thank you, Ted Oberg, so much for sort of putting this all in perspective. We want to go back now to Northeast Houston, to the 5th Ward neighborhood, and we're looking at live pictures from Sky Eye. As we showed you from the ground, there are police officers and vehicles all around that area. But at this point, things seem to be fairly quiet. We understand that the suspect is believed to be holed up inside that apartment complex, but we haven't seen much activity at this point. You do see a few squad cars there with their lights flashing, but it's been fairly quiet. I know that Tammy Rose is up in Sky Eye. Tammy, are you seeing something more than what we can see here?
Yeah, so we're sitting over the East Tex Freeway near Minute Maid Park. We're a couple of miles away from where the actual location is on Lockwood and Hirsch, so it's kind of hard to make out all of the activity, but obviously there's quite a few flashing lights. The neighborhood completely surrounded with police officers where that suspect is holed up in nearby neighborhood. When we first did arrive on scene, we were actually a little bit closer to it where we saw the Mercedes, the trunk popped open. There was like what looked to me like a home that had some damage to it, either from bullet holes or from somebody trying to break into a home. That's what it looked like to me, and basically they have the neighborhood completely shut off. You're kind of looking, let me add Sky Map here up for those not familiar with the streets and the areas over here in the 5th Ward, but you can see Lockwood there in New Orleans, and again the actual house is on Lockwood near Hirsch, but again we're not able to make it that way because this is still an active situation. We still have HPD up here with us who tells us, you know, the suspect is still holed up in the house, and obviously we have to stay quite a distance from the actual scene until it comes to an end.
And if I remember correctly, Tammy, they were chasing after a carjacked white Mercedes, and that's what led them to this area right now. I don't know if it's possible for you to see through all that thick tree cover there, whether or not you can see any of the cars.
Yeah, no, we were actually one of the first people on scene at that other location on McGowan. And for those not familiar, from that location to where the high-speed chase ended with the Dodge Charger, it's about 4.5 miles away near 1600 Lockwood of where the suspect hijacked the Mercedes vehicle and then ended up in this neighborhood. So about 4.5 miles away from that first scene where the high-speed chase came to a crashing end and the suspect took off. Now that suspect is holed up in this neighborhood here in the 5th Ward, and again, just so many officers in this neighborhood, and obviously they have all of the streets shut down. And again, we are just sitting back 2 miles away from the scene because it is still active. The suspect is still holed up in a home somewhere in this area.
All right. Thank you very much. Huge update right there. And we can completely understand the reason to be at a cautious distance right now as this continues to play out. And we await further update there from the last scene that the suspect was caught at there. We also, again, we've been breaking down so many aspects of not just the video that we saw and the audio coming from the gunfire inside that Charger. We've also tried to help you piece together exactly when this starts and officers find out they've got a high-speed chase on their hands. It happens again around 2:40 this afternoon. What we've been able to get for you as well is the police scanner traffic coming in from the initial call when police start radioing back that they've got this situation progressing and unfolding right before them. Let's listen in.
We have 2 that were transported off from McGowan. We have a 3rd on Hutchins. We have our 3rd ambulance arriving. It is one shot in the arm, 1 shot in the foot. One officer down right here. We're going to need to transport him. You might not get any information on that vehicle because he just carjacked that vehicle.
Yeah, we're getting information that there's a 3rd officer been shot.
I need to go ahead and shut down the freeway.
Okay, we were trying to do right there is give you a bit of a sequence and put this all together as one piece. This is the scene you were looking at. Those are the calls that you just heard before this video were from calls that officers were making on this scene right here as this was unfolding. And we've also got reporters as well, Mel, that have been down here just talking to people in the neighborhood.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we were hearing that scanner traffic for the first time. We were learning about some of the injuries. Those officers there, 1 shot in the foot, 1 shot in the arm. Just a huge relief as you look at that scene. We want to go back to Pooja Lodia, who has been there all afternoon. She's very close to the intersection where this all happened. And Pooja, you had a chance to also talk to some folks who live in that area, and you certainly indicated just how close they were to this incredibly dangerous situation.
That's right. People we are talking to out here say they are absolutely in shock. And really, it is chilling. When you look at that surveillance video, you know what happened, and then you come home to find this. You can see the suspect's vehicle is still here on scene over there. It's that Dodge over there with the lights on. We've seen actually investigators taking photos inside and outside of that vehicle. You can see the police SUV right in the middle of the street here, and you can see another SUV right here on McGowan. This is sort of a small contained area, but as you can see, police have blocked off a large portion of this area. Now, a lot of people were actually home when this happened. People say that they heard all of those gunshots. They couldn't believe what was going on. In fact, many of them were confused at the time, but others are just now coming home. Some of them are unable to even get to their homes due to this whole crime scene. They are just in shock. They can't believe what happened, and they are looking for answers. As for the investigation out here, we have seen officers here from the ATF. We have seen men and women out here with bulletproof vests on. We've also seen quite a few Houston police officers, but I can tell you that there are a lot fewer officers here right now than there were even about half an hour ago. We don't know at this point where those officers are, but I do know just from hearing Courtney Carpenter's live report reports that many officers have been arriving over there. So it does look like the focus of this investigation has really shifted, but this is still a residential area. This is still concerning for many people out here. And also, of course, as the investigation here continues, police are going to be looking for help from a lot of these residents, because if you see just how many homes have a good view of exactly what happened, we were, of course, able to obtain that exclusive surveillance video, but there is other video out there and there are other witnesses, and police are looking to get more information on exactly what went down over here. So we will, of course, bring you more information as we learn more. Back to you.
All right, Pooja, thank you so much. And we should, as you can see this shot here, very high density area right now. This neighborhood now filled with townhomes. And as you saw there, many of them 2-3 stories. So they did have a direct bird's eye view of what was happening there. But we want to go now back to 5th Ward and to the second location here. This is where officers found that carjacked white Mercedes that they were looking for. And you can see Courtney Carpenter there. She has been there much of the afternoon, sort of getting the latest. Any word from inside there at this point, Courtney?
Well, Melanie, actually here in the last few minutes, we've been able to hear police trying to talk to this suspect on a loudspeaker. That's just been happening these past few minutes. They're saying things like, you know, come out with nothing in your hands. We know you're injured. Follow instructions, trying to give him a message from someone, saying, you know, no one here wants to hurt you. So that is what we're hearing right now, just the police trying to speak to this suspect here on the loudspeaker. So we'll continue to keep you updated and work to bring you the latest from here.
All right. Well, good to hear that they've got some dialogue going with him. Thanks a lot for that update, Courtney. Let's also take you now to Memorial Hermann Hospital. That's where the 3 officers were told were taken there. And Jessica, we've also got an update as well on some of the injuries these 3 officers suffered during the shootout there with the suspect.
Yeah, Eric, this information is trickling out, but I did just get an update from the police union president, Doug Griffith. He tells me that one of the officers was shot in the arm, one was shot in the leg, and the 3rd officer shot in the foot. And Mayor Sylvester Turner characterized the injuries as non-life-threatening, and that these officers are doing well. Also, that they are stable right now here at Memorial Hermann Hospital. They were brought here, just before 3 o'clock this afternoon after that shootout, after that shooting there in Midtown. And this is where they have been. They will remain here. Lots of police officers coming here, gathering in support, as well as city officials. The mayor is either here or will be here shortly. Chief Troy Finner, I think he's standing just outside the emergency room there, and his command staff gathering. We are hoping to get an update shortly, an official update shortly. But just to recap, one of the officers was shot in the arm, the 2nd officer shot in the leg, and the 3rd one shot in the foot. And just incredible when we've all seen that video, how they were fired upon so quickly, barely had time to react, and certainly, their guns, can't fire as quickly as the suspect's gun did. So again, we're waiting for an update, and when we will get more information, we will get it to you. It looks like they are going inside the hospital there, and we are hoping for that update within the next half hour.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much. It looks as though we did see Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee there, and while you were talking, Jessica, there was a large black SUV that pulled up. It looked as though it might be one of the city officials. We do not know whether or not that was the mayor at this point. But again, they're at Memorial Hermann in the middle of Texas Medical Center, but we are learning those 3 officers not hurt nearly as badly as you might have expected.
And Mel, Jessica made a great point in her closing remarks right there. The fact that they were under automatic gunfire, at least it sounded like that, and they come away with just a shot to the arm or the foot or the leg. They're breathing a sigh of relief tonight.
Yeah, it is a miracle. Well, World News Tonight is coming up next, but we will continue our coverage on our new 24/7 streaming channel so we can keep you up to date on all of this.
That's right. As we continue to stream now at abc13.com and our news app, our ABC 13 news app, we are definitely digging into more of the audio here and exactly what's taking place with the suspect here, 31-year-old Roland Caballero. They've been talking to him with a bullhorn inside the building right there. We're going to have a lot more broken down for you on Eyewitness News at 6. All right, thanks for joining us here on ABC13s.com and our news apps as well. You're looking at a live picture. This is off of Lockwood right now. Another picture for you of the same area from Sky Eye. And we can tell you that at this point, after a shooting and chase started at around 2:40, just near downtown, this is where we're taking right now. After a suspect was in a shootout with police, carjacked another person trying to get away from police. He made his way in that carjacked vehicle, which we're told was a white Mercedes, to a multiplex building right here that officers now have surrounded. We're told he's in there, Mel, and at last update from Courtney Carpenter, who is there live on scene, that they were actually trying to speak with him, get a dialogue going with a bullhorn, letting him know that, hey, this doesn't have to end in the worst way possible. You can come out, but it's not clear exactly if he's communicating back with officers at this point, as we kind of zoom in for you, as well as some of the officers blocking off roads that are out in front of this multiplex.
Now, we have learned a little bit about the suspect, and at this point, we know his name to be Roland Caballero. He is 31 years old, and he has got one long rap sheet at this point. We understand that he's got an unlawful carrying weapon, which is a particularly frightening when you think about what he's done or is alleged to have done. 2 counts of felony possession of a weapon, prohibited substance in a correctional facility, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. All of this stretching back over the last few years. So that is a shot of him, just one of many mug shots that we've seen of him. And again, he is believed to be holed up inside that apartment complex in the middle of the 5th Ward. This is there at Lockwood near Hirsch at this point, and you can see all of those officers there on the scene. We are told by Courtney Carpenter they are trying to talk to him inside that apartment. We do not know what his injuries are like, but we understand he may have been shot.
That's right. So again, you see his mugshot right there, and as Mel was talking, we do have some video as well as some graphics here. He's got an extensive rap sheet that Mel was talking about as Sky Eye kind of zooms in. But there is what started most of this chase here. Anyway, in terms of the gunfight, let's listen into this weapon.
And just to kind of run you through that scene once again, you saw that dark Charger careening around the corner, crashing into a fence. The police officers in hot pursuit, they jump out, but at the same time, the suspect kicks open his door, and there is just a frightening volley, just a barrage of gunfire there. And you can see the officers trying to hide behind their SUV, their squad car, and then running to the scene. At some point after this all plays out and several officers were shot, we understand now their injuries are not as serious as you might expect. Mm-hmm. One shot in the leg, one shot in the arm, and one shot in the foot at this point. But at some point, he is able to get away from this scene and carjack a white Mercedes, which he then takes to a second location. Yeah, that video there, that's going to be heading up to the Lockwood scene that we've got for you right there. Again, these are the couple of scenes here that at this point officers are working, and we've got Sky Eye over the scene on the right-hand side over here. Then officers that we're told were involved in the situation here where apparently the victim, or I should say the suspect, has barricaded himself up in the building here. We had been told here just a few minutes ago that Courtney Carpenter, our reporter there on scene, could hear vaguely off in the distance, because they've pushed reporters back at this point at least a couple of blocks away. Our camera's able to zoom in as best as it can with a shot on the left-hand side of your screen. Nevertheless, she said she was able to hear officers trying to get a dialogue going with the suspect, 31-year-old Roland Caballero, inside that building, telling him that, hey, let's get a conversation going here. You're in the building. This doesn't have to end any worse than it is already. Sky Eye giving us a shot at here of kind of a wider scene of what people are basically coming home to at 5:35 in the evening here. A lot of people
that might not have heard what's going on, Mel, getting home from work, but nevertheless, we know Courtney's been talking to people and also getting updates from police.
And as far as we can tell, he is in the middle of an apartment complex. And Courtney told us just a short while ago, people have been told to stay inside, to not be out on the streets. But we want to go live right now to Courtney Carpenter. She is not that far away from the location, but you all have been pushed back, I know, Courtney, several times just to keep you safe. And I would imagine that's the same message they're giving to people who live around there.
Exactly, Mel. Yeah, they pushed us back, just trying to make sure we're safe here. A lot of the activity going on in one of those apartment complexes up there. And just minutes ago, as we were talking about, the police are trying to communicate with this suspect that we understand is holed up in here, trying to say, you know, come out, follow instructions. We understand you're injured. We have medics out here, and they were trying to pass along a message of someone that cares about this guy. So they're trying to talk with him, and they've been doing that over the loudspeaker here in the last 10 to 15 minutes, trying to communicate with the suspect. We do understand that he's been shot. We don't know the extent of his injuries or exactly what the deal is there, but this ambulance is here, and they just pulled out a stretcher not long ago, but still just trying to communicate with this man and see if he will come out and surrender peacefully at this point. Like the point Eric mentioned, just doesn't have to be any worse than it already is, and just trying to get him to come out. They're saying no one here wants to hurt you. That's one thing that they have said multiple times over that speaker. So that's pretty much the deal. You guys made the point. Folks, a lot of folks coming home to this, you know, what in the world is going on? A lot of folks out here in this park right now just trying to figure out what the deal is. We talked to some of the folks over here. They live not far away, said the high-speed chase actually came right by their front door. So they came up here to get a closer look at it. They ended up getting closer than they wanted to. It ended up being really close. They got video of a bit of a shootout happening over here out on Lockwood around 4 o'clock. So a scary situation. She was saying they were up there at the church parking lot, her daughter, and her grandkids. And like I said, they were curious, wanted to know what happened. They ended up getting really close and seeing that shootout happen a bit ago. So that's kind of the latest here from now. For now, just trying to get this suspect to come out and surrender peacefully, guys.
Yeah, so we know there's a lot going on there as well, Courtney. And so from what you're saying, there was some gunfire exchanged at this spot because, again, when we try to piece this all together for viewers and, of course, for everybody in our newsroom, he carjacks the guy that, or I should say a victim when a white Mercedes goes to this location you're at, gets out of it, and you think there's some gunfire exchange there once police catch up with him, and then he goes into a building right there?
Eric, that is what I believe. Like you said, there's a lot going on, and of course that from you know, a witness here, but they did have some video they showed me where several shots were fired, but honestly from the video it was hard to tell exactly what was going on, but a lot of shots and smoke kind of everywhere there. So that is my understanding, that there was some kind of shootout here before that suspect went and holed himself up in that apartment. So yeah, a lot going on. We're trying to figure all that out, but that is my understanding, that they heard the car speeding by, came up to get a closer look, and they're saying that happened around 4 o'clock on Lockwood, which is just a street right on the other side of these apartments, kind of the main road where we're here pushed back near Hirsch and Erastus. But Lockwood here in 5th Ward is the main road that we are right by, and that's where the shooting happened, according to these witnesses.
That's a great breakdown right there, Courtney. And the other thing, it's so fascinating what you're talking about, because it really gives us kind of a front seat from where you're at. Is it eerie in any way to kind of hear police using that? I'm just saying bullhorn, no telling what they're using, but to try and communicate, because it's something also that I can only imagine people in that neighborhood are also listening to, because they're probably either open their windows or on the front porch trying to figure out what's going on. So they, along with you, can hear officers trying to at least communicate with this guy. Are they doing it often? Are they waiting every couple of minutes?
Yeah, it seems like, Eric, that's a good point. They have been waiting every couple of minutes, and here since we've been live, I haven't heard them at all. It is kind of hard to hear between talking with you guys, talking with everyone else, and then hearing kind of that loudspeaker that they are talking over, but they haven't been speaking over it here in the last few minutes. So they talk for, you know, a minute or so at a time, then kind of give it a break, and that's what's going on right now. And you're absolutely right about everyone coming home, everyone out here hanging out, wanting to know what's happening, and certainly listening to the police trying to communicate with this guy. Yeah, certainly an eerie feeling. Just kind of obviously you hope that that he does follow those commands and that he can come out peacefully sometime soon.
All right, Courtney, we appreciate it. As you've been talking, we've been looking at some video from Sky Eye, and we can see that white Mercedes that was apparently carjacked from the Midtown area and driven to the 5th Ward area. And just to give you some sense, between 3rd Ward and 5th Ward, normally you might take the freeway. You might go 59 to I-10. But in this case, it looks as though he may have led police on another chase through the streets there and ended up in really on the historic boulevard of Lockwood there in the heart of the 5th Ward. We want to go back to the first scene where this all unfolded, and we really can't show you this video enough. You see there that Dodge Charger, that dark Charger, as it careens into a fence, then the police coming up behind him. They've been chasing him, and as they jump out of the car to try to get him down, let's listen in. You can hear this volley of gunfire.
Yeah, and what's really telling about this video, Mel, is so, you know, everyone sees that driver's side door pop open. That's when he unloads on the patrol car. It's got smoke coming from it. The front tire's blown out. And then what you can't see, and we've, again, I know you've been dissecting this along with us, Mel, is you see officers in a second here run down the street, but no one sees anybody exit that Charger. Right. And best we can see is he jumped out the passengers. He climbed over the console in the car, opened the passenger door, and took off on that sidewalk. That's why they're going after him right now, but you never see him come out of the vehicle. Yeah, and you have no idea just how he was able to get to the next location to carjack someone's car there. But the other thing that really strikes me, Eric, as we look at this, is how close all those townhomes are. Yeah. And imagine that you're sitting in your living room watching TV or something, and you hear what sounds like, you know, a movie or something, and you look out the window, and this is playing out in front of you. But a beautiful afternoon, a lot of people either at home or walking down that area. And again, this scene begins to unfold right in front of your eyes. It's really miraculous that no one else was hurt other than those three officers. That's a great point. Yeah. With all the gunfire, you don't know where it ended up because there was a lot of rounds exchanged right here.
No, that's absolutely true. The other good bit of news, though, Eric, and we've also been kind of watching the scene over at Memorial Hermann Hospital in the Texas Medical Center, is that as much, gunfire as you can hear, and it is shocking, 3 officers were not injured more seriously. We've heard that one had a bullet in his leg, another in the arm, another in the foot. And obviously, this could have been a much, much worse scene as you see this just wild, wildly playing out in front of your eyes. But you can see the officers trying to scatter, trying to stay away from the gunfire, not to mention several of them really behind that squad car that you can see in the middle of the street.
Yeah, we might have some video we can pull up here shortly, but we were talking about the squad car that's got smoke coming from the hood at that point. When you see the close-up video of the police cruiser right there, again, as I was noting here a second ago, when you see this close-up video, the windows are shattered in it. Right. The front tires are shot out. There's bullet holes all throughout the hood and the interior of the vehicle. It's amazing that that officer, again, you could say some minor injuries considering they could have been much more serious. Right. And then we've got a live picture as to what's going on right now. Of course, Mel, they've got this place completely roped off as they continue investigation and collect evidence. And I believe Pooja Lodia is standing by right now. She has been at this location all afternoon. And Pooja, you've had a chance to talk to some of the folks here. Did they all realize what was happening when it did?
Melanie, it was that sound of that gunfire that really shocked so many neighbors out here. Like you said, there were so many shots fired and it all happened so quickly that, yes, some of them thought that it might be fireworks. They thought maybe it was a dream. I mean, they had no idea what was going on. And actually, as we speak, we are getting a better idea of just how many shots were fired. We have seen investigators put down those markings, marking how many bullets were fired. I mean, from here, I can count at least 25 to 30 of them, and you can see they're not even done yet. So it's not your imagination. All of those bullets were fired. And again, when you look around this area, you'll notice just how many families live here. A lot of people were home at the time. They are, of course, terrified. And the big question for them is, of course, how did this scene move to another area? Because when you look at that surveillance video, it isn't quite clear how the person was able to get out of that Dodge. But here on scene, we can see that the car does have some bullet holes in it. Nobody is obviously inside, but we've seen investigators going in and out taking photos as part of their investigation. The one thing I can tell you that a lot of people here are relieved by is that this scene out here appears to be sort of quieting down. We're not seeing as many officers out here because the investigation has moved over to that Lockwood area. So things out here do feel a lot calmer, but again, people are just showing up and finding this in front of their homes. They are terrified and they want to know exactly how all of this went down. And of course, they aren't getting any answers right now. So at this point, they just have a lot of questions and obviously they're very concerned. Back to you.
Pooja, as we are looking at where they're marking all of those casings, we're just stunned by that. The last number I was able to see, I think, was 68 up there. So you just get some sense of how many bullets were flying around at this point. As you've had a chance to sort of look around, we see so many flashing lights there on the scene. Are they still just keeping everybody away from that location?
All sides of this scene, police cruisers are blocking it off. There are still officers here, but this is still very different than what it was like just a couple of hours ago. When we got here, it was right at about 3:30, and I'm telling you, there were just groups and groups of officers. I mean, 15 officers in one area, all trying to figure out what to do. People were going door to door, trying to get more information. Now things do remain a lot calmer. So that is, of course, good news for the neighbors out here. But look, even as we speak, you can see officers with flashlights marking even more casings there on the ground. So that is, of course, concerning, very scary for those who live here.
And Pooja, I wonder if your photographer would mind pushing in again so we can just get some sense of how many bullets were flying around out there. Just that, you know, incredible collection of yellow tags marking where the gunshots hit. Is it possible?
Sure. And Francisco, if you don't mind actually zooming in, because they want to see just how many of those casing markers are out there. And again, there are more coming. I mean, we see, as you are watching live, officers putting more and more and more. So this is not done yet.
Yeah. To see some of the numbers, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and as Francisco Pooja has got zoomed in for us, what a great shot he's giving us. Man, if I'm one of the homeowners living at this corner, the first thing I'm going to be doing once the road's open and I watch all this coverage is probably checking my home for bullet holes. And especially if you're one of the vehicles that was parked on the opposite side of that Charger as well, Pooja. Unfortunately, those cars might have a few bullet holes as well, but there's what you were talking about, Mel. They continue adding to the toll here. There's 82 going up as we speak.
Unbelievable as you look at all of those casings there. And we also finally get a really tight shot of that Dodge Charger as well, Eric. Look at that, just covered with bullet holes there. So this was clearly a gun battle going on between the suspect and the officers who were there on that scene, and probably caught completely off guard when they start hearing that, you know, rat-a-tat-a-tat of what is automatic gunfire.
Yeah, it's...
You know, and I have to tell you, just talking to residents out here, they say they've heard gunfire before. They know what gunshots sound like, but this sounded different. And that is why they were so concerned. That is why so many of them came out of their homes just to see what was going on. They said if it were just a couple of gunshots, they wouldn't have come out because they would have known what that sound was. This was confusing and shocking for them.
We can only imagine, as we say, sitting there in the middle of the afternoon, 2:40, and this all starts to break out right there on your street. We are still waiting to hear from city officials. We know the mayor has said he is going to come out and make a statement. We saw a short while ago Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee there at the hospital as we continue to look at all of these markers here. It's just really stunning to see. But we're waiting to hear from them in just a matter of minutes.
Yeah, we're going to stand by. There's the makeshift press conference we have waiting for us right now. Again, as Mel was talking about, this is outside Memorial Hermann, where officers, any law enforcement for that matter in our area, when they're injured, this is the de facto spot they usually go to for treatment. So a live scene here as well, a lot of activity. We all know Brothers in Blue stick together as they should. So when one of theirs is injured, they often, if they can, make it to the hospital just to show support as well for everybody. So again, once this press conference begins, we'll certainly bring you back to it. But again, we're going to take you back live out to the scene here. At some point, maybe we could also pull up the mug shot of the suspect involved that was driving the Dodge Charger right there, that is riddled with bullet holes and smashed up against the sidewalk and fence right there. Again, he's a 31-year-old. As we kind of look at this live scene, Roland Caballero. We were able to dig into his rap sheet after we found this, well, you could say assortment of mug shots here and all different kinds of looks. Safe to say, when you see this many photo booths taken inside of a jail, he was no stranger to law enforcement. And when we looked at his rap sheet as well, it definitely had some charges related to weapons on it. So here's what you're dealing with right here, according to police. And as we are at this hour, we're still waiting for an update on this suspect here. Again, 31-year-old Roland Caballero. As we've heard, Mel, at this point, he's, from what we know, still holed up at the home on the right-hand side of your screen here. And Courtney Carpenter was telling us that, hey, they've tried to make contact with him because there was some sort of shootout, because he got to this scene on the right-hand side of your screen after running out of the Dodge Charger that we showed you earlier. He carjacked the person that was driving that white Mercedes, vaguely off in the foreground of the shot here. You can see the hatch trunk popped on that Mercedes. So when he carjacks that person, he drives to this area. It's really not that far away from where he crashed the Dodge Charger he was in. And we were told there was gunfire heard in the neighborhood here, and then he ran into a fourplex building right there that police were able to finally corner him in. And from what Courtney's saying, every once in a while they get on that megaphone, Mel. They try to talk to him, tell him, hey, come on out. It's not clear if he's communicating back, but that is the scene right there, and they've got this blocked off as well.
Yeah, and we're looking there on the left-hand side. That, of course, is at Memorial Hermann Hospital. Unfortunately, this has become a depressingly familiar scene now when we see officers gathered there waiting to learn about their colleagues and city officials showing up, Harris County officials, because there have been so many shootings involving officers, unfortunately, as Ted Oberg told us, over the last few years. Going back to the rap sheet, and you really mentioned there, Eric, the fact that this guy has a long rap sheet. Just looking at some of the things we were able to pull up, he certainly knows his way around a weapon. There have been a number of charges: possession of a deadly weapon, deadly conduct, felony possession, once again, of a weapon. In fact, he was still out on a couple of open warrants, one unlawfully carrying a weapon that was just filed the first part of this year, and another aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. So officers, as you can see at all of these different mugshots, as far as we know, this dates back to at least December of '08 and perhaps even earlier than that. But you can see, as much as he tried to change his look frequently, this is a man who certainly has been arrested numerous times.
He certainly has. And again, we're still waiting on officers to give us an update from the scene where they have him. We're told there in the, and this is where he's at. And Mel, I was kind of looking at this as well as you were reporting. If you look past that Mercedes, it's kind of hard to make out because we're approaching dusk here, but that's one of those huge SWAT vehicles outfitted with all kinds of armor and whatnot. And then you can see law enforcement in their SWAT gear huddled behind it. It's not clear what kind of position they're taking, but it looks like they're definitely using, at this point, this vehicle here as a shelter. So, again, as far as we've been able to gather from the limited information police are able to give us at this scene is that he is still holed up. Roland Caballero in a fourplex here, and then there's the video to even show you more. Again, those officers in their SWAT gear using that SWAT vehicle, which just had a light pop onto it on the roof there. And they continue to take that kind of cautious position right now as they try to get some sort of dialogue going there with Roland Caballero, again, the person they believe started this whole thing around 2:40 in the afternoon, more than 3 hours at this point. So it'll be interesting to see if the communication there from negotiators works with the megaphone they're using to try to get him to come out. We were getting some conflicting reports about whether he was wounded or not. It kind of went back and forth there. So at this point, we're not exactly sure if he does, in fact, have any wounds inside the building there. But we know at this point he's exchanged off gunfire with officers on 2 different scenes. And we saw more than 80 shots fired, according to evidence markers at the old scene. So we know he was under gunfire as that light once again comes on. And this could be simply because we're approaching dusk here and sunlight is obviously becoming limited. So we're going to continue to follow this as well. And we're definitely going to keep an eye on what they're using this vehicle for if it moves up forward closer to the fourplex where Caballero is holed up right now. But we know officers there are huddled behind it with their SWAT gear on, weapons in hand, as they continue to try to negotiate with Caballero and see if he in fact will come out. And then of course we are still waiting at the left-hand side of your screen at the Memorial Hermann Hospital right there. A makeshift press conference is set to go any second now. They're giving us an update on the 3 officers that were shot in the shootout with suspect Caballero. Again, we know at this point their injuries not life-threatening, which is a sigh of relief. Again, when you know that 80-plus shots were fired in that gunfight with police, as we kind of zoom in for you at some of the high-level law enforcement brass that have showed up here, along with some political politicians, I should say, have come to show their support as well. But again, the officers shot 3 of them. 1, we're told, in the arm, 1 in the leg, 1 in the foot. The good news is, as we've said, all non-life-threatening injuries as well. And so this is a scene that is still playing out more than 3 hours when it started here this afternoon around 2:40. I believe we have well, we do have Jessica Woolley on standby. They're waiting for a press conference here. It's not clear when that will take place, but again, officers there to show their support. And as once we get more information on the scene here, there's multiple scenes here that we're covering. One where the standoff is here, and then one at the hospital. We're certainly bringing more at abc13.com and, of course, on Eyewitness News on Channel 13. We'll be back with you briefly.
ABC 13 Eyewitness News at 6. Now, breaking news. And we begin Eyewitness News at 6 with breaking news following the story of 3 Houston police officers being shot today. As you see, several city and even national leaders there coming up to the podium, including Chief Finner from Houston Police Department, to make comments about these 3 officers injuries to the arm, leg, and foot. They are said to be in stable condition. We want to make sure that we don't miss these comments by him. We have Sheila Jackson Lee, the representative. We have Chief Pena, and of course, Houston's Mayor Sylvester Turner about to speak now.
Let me get things started. Standing, of course, here with Chief Finner. He'll be speaking in a few minutes. Appreciate Chief Pena from the Fire Department being here. Thank you, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, for being here. Councilmember Carolyn Evans Shabazz, and all of these men and women in blue, police officers. Kind of give you a brief update, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Chief Finner. Let me just start off by saying we are certainly praying for our police officers who were shot today. I will tell you, one was shot in the foot, one was shot in the leg, and one was shot in the arm. All of their injuries are non-life-threatening. Had a chance to visit with each one of them and even with some of the family members. All 3 officers are in good spirits. All were talkative, and we expressed, number one, our support of them, how appreciative we are of their service, and how grateful and thankful that their injuries were not a lot worse, because it could certainly have been a lot worse. So again, all of them are in good spirits, and their injuries are non-life-threatening. Had a chance to talk to all of them. This has been a tough week. Starting on Saturday, it's been a tough week. It's been a tough week for law enforcement, and it's been a tough week for the city as a whole. Quite frankly, for the city as well as the county. What it indicates again is that being a police officer in this case, or in law enforcement, is an inherently dangerous job. Every single day, when these police officers leave their homes, go on their particular shifts, not knowing what they will encounter in that day, being a police officer is an inherently dangerous job. And so I cannot tell you how proud I am of every single law enforcement officer that serves our city, that gives their all in the service of our city. And so I want to ask the people in this city to continue to lift them up, to continue to be very supportive of them, to let them know that we are very supportive of them and that we appreciate them doing everything they can to keep the rest of us safe. These are inherently right now dangerous times, and that was demonstrated again today. We are living in inherently dangerous time, and it's going to take all of us working together to create and have a very safe city. There are a lot of guns on the street. Quite frankly, there are just too many that are on the streets and in the hands of people who will use these guns at a second on a notice. And again, this is one of those situations. Person gets out, person starts shooting. And now we have 3 police officers who are in the hospital with gunshot wounds. So I want to continue to be supportive. Now, let me just say this. The chief and I, on next week, we'll lay out some additional steps that we intend to take in this city to do our part as a city to try to make this city a safe city in which to live. So next week, we'll lay out some additional steps. I won't go into those steps today. But I'm going to ask people in this city to work with police, to work with Crime Stoppers and others, to participate in helping to make this city a safer city. And if we work together, we will do that. We're going to get through these times. And I know there's a lot of people are fearful right now, justifiably so, but we will get through these times. But in the meantime, please pray for these 3 officers that their recovery will be very quick, they'll be able to get back on their feet and then get back to their jobs in the line of duty, doing what they love to do each and every day. Having said that, Chief Hermann, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Congresswoman, Councilwoman, and Chief Pena from Union, and all our other leaders. Thank y'all for standing with us. Mayor's hit on a lot of the points. I just want to say one thing. I want everybody, all our leaders, before I update you on what happened out here on this scene, no more excuses. Everybody, take an active role and get intentional in doing whatever you can do to fight gun violence in our city, period. It's not really a difficult thing. Bad, dangerous people, it's a place for them, and that's in jail. But let me give you the update. So approximately 2:42 p.m., officers responded to a residence on the 1500 block of Trolley Street. The suspect at some point spotted the officers. He took off in a vehicle. Officers pursued the suspect to McGowan and Hutchison Street. The suspect crashed. Officers, as they got out of the vehicle, the suspect immediately fired upon the officers, striking 3 officers. All the officers returned fire. It is unknown at this time if that suspect is hit. Once he got out of that vehicle, he carjacked at gunpoint a white Mercedes-Benz. Other officers pursued him to a home in the 1800 block of Lockwood. Officers surrounded that house. The suspect fired multiple times. Thank God he didn't strike any of the officers. Officers returned fire. Again, we don't know if that suspect is injured. He's still in the home. We treat it as a barricaded suspect. We'll give you an update as I receive it. The last update I received a few minutes ago, he's still in the home. We're trying to negotiate to get him out. We got 2 crime scenes. The officers who fired, they're going to be on administrative leave after they get out of the hospital, but the mayor said it, and we're just grateful to God that they're all right. It's been a tough week for law enforcement in our city, and the two law enforcement officers that we lost, continue to pray for them and their family as we plan for their funerals. It is tough. When I received that call today, 3 officers down, and you don't know the condition. But I'm gonna tell you, stand by your law enforcement officers. Stand by the justice system. And we're gonna continue to work here in Harris County, Houston-Harris County, to make sure we're doing everything we can do. But we need help from everybody. And remember what I said. And this doesn't go for individuals who need treatment, suffering from drug addiction or mental illness. But these violent individuals, I'm damn tired of it. And we need to stand up as a community and do whatever we got to do. If that is to have more jail capacity, let's get it done. No more excuses. Questions?
Before
I'm
you
sorry.
go to the question, let me just say, Scott, I do want to thank the police officers who transported these wounded officers to Memorial Hermann. And I want to thank the Houston Fire Department, Chief Pena, for being right there promptly and for transporting officers to Memorial Hermann. And then let me thank the medical team and the staff, the nurses, the doctors here at Memorial Hermann each and every time. They do an exceptional job of going over and above, providing excellent medical care to our officers, to firefighters, to people who find themselves in need of care. You just couldn't find a better place. So, you know, we took the time, in addition to thanking firefighters and police officers, thanking the medical team and the medical staff. I do want to say that, you know, we provided resources to the police department. We'll provide even more. It's going to take all of us at every level to step up and to do our part to make this a safer city. And we will. We will make this a safer city, and we will provide our police officers with all the resources that they need. But I do want to say next week that we will be outlining additional steps that will be taken to reinforce police officers and others who are out here fighting to make our city safe each and every day. But I do want to thank these police officers and firefighters and others for being on the front line and for doing an exceptional job on behalf of the people in our city. Thank you, Chief. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Go ahead. Questions?
What was the original call? How did they end up coming in contact?
Just some type of disturbance call, family disturbance, possibly because it's at a residence, but it's still active, and that's what I have at this time. Go ahead.
Sources of mine told me that the gunman might have been using a weapon modified with
I can tell you this, and I can't confirm it because but what officers described it as an automatic, a fully automatic weapon, and that's something else that we need to address in our community, and we will. I'm not sure. I don't know. They're still out, trying to negotiate with him and get him out, so we don't know at this time.
Has he been communicating?
No. Go ahead. Yeah, give us 1 second and we're gonna get through with these and then we'll do the, yeah, okay? Hold up, let this pass.
There could be 50 plus shots fired, is that?
That could be accurate, multiple shots, yes. Yes, I think 2 of our officers were self-transported by one of our patrol officers, and the third was from HFD.
Can you tell us about the condition of the person that was carjacked? How's that person doing?
I hadn't heard any injuries on that, and we hope that's the case, but we'll follow up with you on that because I don't know at this time. One question over there, I can't see through the lights. Go ahead.
That was the same question, but did you find other weapons inside the Charger?
That's part of the investigation, and at this point, I don't know right now. That scene's still active. Go ahead.
Were some areas evacuated because of the danger?
I'm pretty sure that's a residential area out there on Lockwood, and that's what we do. We try to evacuate everybody around there, keep them safe.
Could you describe the suspect's knowledge of the home he's barricaded in? Is that that he knows? Did he break?
I'm not sure. I just can tell you it's a single residence home, one story, I think. Yeah. I don't have any suspect information right now, nothing confirmed, okay?
Was there anybody in the home when he went into that home?
I did get some reports that there were some residents in the home and they ran out when he came, but we don't believe it's anybody in there right now but the suspect, but we need to confirm that.
So no potential hostages?
Not at this time. Any more questions?
Was the Lockwood address like a random place that he went to, or did he go there?
I'm not sure. Yeah, not sure, Randy. Thanks.
Chief, this callous disregard for the law, for law enforcement, the lives of law enforcement, what do you attribute that to?
Hey, who knows? But I know one thing, Randy. We need to address it, and we need to deal with those individuals. And one thing that people miss sometimes, it's not most of our citizens. It's a small group of individuals that's committing havoc. Our city is a great city with great people in it, and we're going to stand up for them, and we're going to find out a way to deal with those very few, very violent individuals. So thanks for that question.
Could you let us know about the ranks of the officers injured?
Everybody is, I'll give you the
3, 4, and 5 years.
3, 4, and 5 year. They're all officers from Northeast. Thanks for asking. All right.
Did they continue to, participate in the shootouts after they were already injured?
Let me tell you something, and that's what people need to understand about the great men and women on our police department. You have some brave officers that put their line on the line every day, and I'm proud of them. And make no mistake about it, we release videos, and citizens are going to see the fight in them when they have to fight.
It is happening across the country. but I would tell you I'm primarily concerned about what's happening in the city of Houston. Over the last week and a half, Chief Fenner and I and others have been talking about additional steps that we intend to take to protect the people in this city and to make this city safer. A more comprehensive approach. Quite frankly, that was going to be laid out this week, but so much has taken place this week. So we will unfold those initiatives next week. But the crime in this city is too high, okay? And it is important that we do everything on our part at the city to combat that. Now, even everything that we will announce next week need to be augmented and supplemented by other levels. We have way too many cases that are backlogged criminal cases, over 100,000. That's unacceptable, okay? So there are many additional things that need to take place. But in terms of what the city can do, we will lay out those additional steps that we intend to take next week. I do want to acknowledge Doug Griffin, head of HPOU, and thank him and the union for their collaboration all throughout this. But those initiatives will be announced on next week.
All right, that's it. Okay, one more, and we'll let Chief, you want to translate for us? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Where did it start? The street that it started? And it was around 3 o'clock, right?
Yeah, 2 o'clock, Trolley Street.
Trolley Street?
Okay. Yeah, Truly. Yeah.
Bueno, buenas tardes. Mire, estamos aquí para informar a nuestra comunidad.
We're listening to Chief Troy Finner right there, giving an update on exactly how all of this transpired and the different places this has all taken place as well and what's happening right now. So just a quick update from what Chief Troy Finner was giving us at around a little after 2, around 2:40 this afternoon. They got a family disturbance call at 1500 Trolley Street. When the police show up, the victim takes off. Then that gunfight happens to the right of your screen right there when the suspect here crashes that Dodge Charger into the fence, and then, well, a gunfight breaks out right there. You see smoke coming from the patrol cruiser as it's riddled with bullets. And then in a second here, you'll see that suspect gets out of the passenger side door and takes off down the road. That's when Troy Finner says that he carjacks someone in a white Mercedes and gets away even more from the scene. And then they locate him again. Officers are able to pick his trail back up in that carjacked white Mercedes to 1800 Lockwood. Officers confront him there. Multiple shots are fired. Officers fire back when he goes into a home there that's a 4 complex. And as of 6:06, talking with Troy Finner, Gina, we were told that he was still in that building. They were communicating. It's not clear if he's been hit, and he's not communicating back either. But as you know, he's out on multiple open warrants as well.
Yes, and we're going to talk to all of you at home a little bit more about who this suspect is and also the previous encounters he's had with law enforcement when we come right back from a short break.